Chapter 19. Noah. Astrid! I cry, racing toward her as the rumble of the engine fades in the distance. She does not answer, but lies motionless on the ground, one arm outstretched in the direction the truck has gone. As I near, she curls into a ball. No, no! Astrid calls out beside me, over and over, clutching her belly and weeping. I sit down beside her and half lift her onto my lap, cradling her like a child. Then I turn back toward Herr Neuhoff. There is no sign of a blow. His skin is a deathly shade like ash, though, eyes cast toward the sky. I remember then his cough, his heart condition. Astrid lifts her head, her eyes widening in horror as she takes in Herr Neuhoff's still body. "We need a doctor," she says frantically, trying to sit. Then, with a moan, she doubles over once more. I put my arm around her, unsure whether she really believes we can still help him, or just in denial. "He's gone, Astrid." I hold her tighter as she sobs. Then, with my free hand, I close Herr Neuhoff's eyes and wipe a bit of mud from his cheek. His face is peaceful, as if he is sleeping soundly. Astrid lies pale and weak in my arms. Her hands are clutched tightly against her stomach. The baby, I think, with panic, but I do not dare say that aloud. A crowd of performers and workers linger a good distance away, watching us. I gesture to one of the men, waving him over. "We need to return Herr Neuhoff to his carriage," I instruct, forcing some authority into my voice in hopes that he will listen. "Then contact the undertaker." Astrid turns away, not wanting to hear the details. "Astrid, come, let us help you." I stand and try to raise her up, but she lies on the ground beside Herr Neuhoff, refusing to move, like a dog that has lost its master. "You aren't doing Peter any good," I add. "Peter is gone," she says, each word heavy with grief. A hand touches my shoulder. I look up to see Luke, holding Theo. When we had reached the fairgrounds and seen the police, I had thrust Theo at Luke and raced to help Astrid. Thankfully, he had the good sense to keep Theo out of sight. Luke starts to kneel behind Astrid, as if to help me lift her. But I wave him off. Astrid seeing him will only make things worse. "Come, Astrid," I plead, straining again to help her to her feet. I start forward with effort, nearly buckling under her weight. Luke follows at a distance, carrying Theo. "Why?" I cannot help but ask as we limp toward the train. "Why would they arrest Peter?" When I had first seen the police, I wondered if they had learned of the wedding, which violated the laws of Vichy and the Reich. But if that had been the case, they would have taken Astrid as well. "The act," she replies flatly. Part of me had already known the answer. They wanted Peter because of the way in which he mocked the Germans in the show. We reach the train, and I help Astrid into the sleeper car. Though it is late, the carriage is empty, the others still clustered outside talking about everything that had happened. I help Astrid to her berth. "You should rest," I say, as I take off her shoes. She does not reply, but sits stiffly, staring straight ahead. Though I have seen her here dozens of times, she looks strangely out of place. She should be with Peter, celebrating their wedding night. Now that dream is gone. It hardly seems possible. I reach back through the door of the train to take Theo from Luke. Then I try to hand Theo to Astrid. Usually he is such a comfort to her, but now she waves him away. Astrid, we'll have to make arrangements for Herr Neuhoff, I begin. We'll have to cancel tonight's show, of course, but by tomorrow we should perform again. Don't you agree? I hear a note of pleading in my voice, wanting her to take charge as she always has. She sits motionless, though, her will gone. Tears well up in my eyes and spill over. I want so much to be strong for her, but I cannot help it. Oh, Astrid, I just can't believe that Herr Neuhoff is gone. Even though I had known him for only a few months, he was in so many ways more a father than my own had been. He isn't the only one, she replies sharply. Yes, of course, I reply hastily, wiping my eyes. I have no right to cry in front of her, when she has lost so much more. We mustn't give up on Peter, though. He'll be back. She does not reply. Suddenly her face blanches. She lies down, clutching her stomach. Then she turns away to face the wall and lets out a moan. This is not just grief, I realize, but pain. I see it then. A small pool of blood under her, seeping through her skirt onto the sheet. Oh, Astrid, your baby, I cry, blurting out her secret in my panic. The stain grows larger even as I watch. I'll go into town and find a doctor. She shakes her head with resignation. There's nothing to be done, she replies. It's too late. Someone should check you, I protest. Let me fetch Berta at least. I just want to rest. How long has she known this was happening? I'm so sorry. I search for the right words. I know what it feels like to lose a child. But my child survived to be born. Whether this makes it better or worse, I do not know. It's for the best, really, she says darkly. I never would have been any good at being a mother. That isn't true, I protest. I've seen you with Theo, and I know that isn't true. You must admit, I'm hardly the mothering type. Her eyes do not meet mine. There are all different kinds of mothers, I say, trying to help, but feeling at the same time as though I am just making things worse. Without a baby, I'm free to perform or do anything else I'd like, she says, as if trying to convince herself. She rolls toward me. Nothing is going to change what has happened. Then she looks past me, and her eyes widen. I turn to see Luke, who stands uneasily in the doorway to the carriage, not daring to enter, but not wanting to leave me either after all that had happened. What is he doing here? Astrid demands. Astrid! I struggle to find an explanation as to why I am with Luke, after I had sworn to her I would stop seeing him. But I find none. Convenient how he took you away from here just before the arrest, she spits in French, wanting Luke to hear. He must have known. No, I cry. Luke would never betray us. I wait for Luke to say something to deny Astrid's accusation and defend himself, but he does not. Astrid's distrust seeps through me. Luke had seen Peter's act, and even warned Peter it would lead to trouble. I recall Luke's words to Peter the night he had come to the circus. They'll arrest you. Was that a prediction, or had he known what was to come? This is all his fault! Astrid flares, hurling all of her anger and sorrow at Luke. I want to tell her that Peter, not Luke, is to blame for doing the routine after Herr Neuhoff had forbidden it. But now is not the time. It would only make things worse. Luke raises his hands in surrender, unwilling to quarrel. He steps off the train and into the shadows. I sit down beside Astrid and wrap my arms around her. Even if Luke is innocent, it is because I was off with him that I had not been here when Astrid needed me. She shudders violently. Then she closes her eyes. So still, I check to make sure she is still breathing. Her losses slam down upon me then. Herr Neuhoff, her child and Peter, all taken from her in a single night. Or perhaps not. I look toward the door of the rail car. "Hold him," I tell Astrid, pressing Theo firmly into her arms. I walk to the door of the rail car and step down, but don't see Luke. Maybe he has gone. A moment later, he steps from the shadows. "Is she all right?" he asks. "I don't know," I say, fighting back tears. "She's lost everything." "I'm so sorry," Luke says. "I feel as if this is all my fault." "What do you mean?" A rock of dread forms in the pit of my stomach. Had Astrid been right about him after all? "My father was complaining about the circus a week or so ago," Luke begins slowly. "He said the show coming here would only cause trouble. I told him how I had warned Peter about the routine, told him not to do it again. I thought it would help. But that only seemed to make him angrier." "Peter chose to do the act," I reply. "That wasn't your fault." Luke shakes his head. "There's more. Papa warned me to stay away from you, or there would be consequences. I thought I'd been careful going back and forth, but if he had one of his men watching me, and he followed me here tonight and saw the wedding... I'm so sorry," he says again, grabbing my hand. His face watches mine, eyes pleading. "You didn't mean to do anything," I say, but I pull away. Even though he hadn't meant to, Luke had brought ruin to the circus, just as Astrid had warned. I am suddenly angry, not just at Luke, but at myself. "If you want me to go now, I understand," Luke says. "You must hate me for what I've done." "No," I reply firmly. "I know it wasn't your fault. But we need to fix this." "How?" he asks. "We must do something to find Peter." Doubt clouds Luke's eyes. He has seen people taken by the police too many times and knows how impossible this is. I square my shoulders. I had failed Astrid once before. I cannot let that happen again. "Your father," I say. "This was a police action. Surely he knows something about it." Pain crosses Luke's face at the notion that his father was somehow involved. "I will talk to him first thing in the morning and see if he knows anything." "Morning could be too late," I reply. "We have to go see him now." "We?" Luke repeats with disbelief. "I'm coming with you," I say firmly. He puts a hand on my shoulder. "Noah, you can't." "You don't want your father to see you with me," I say, stung. "It's not that. But everything is so dangerous right now. Why can't you just wait here?" "Because I have to do this for Astrid. I'm going to see your father now, with or without you." I look him squarely in the eyes. "With would be better." He opens his mouth to argue further. "Fine," he says, seeming to think better of it. "Just give me a minute." I look down the outside of the train, where a few of the circus women stand huddled, talking. "Elsie!" I call, gesturing her over. The girl breaks free from the group and comes to me. I need you to watch Theo for a bit. Though I still don't like or trust her after what she had done with Theo, I have no choice. Astrid is in no shape to watch him alone. Astrid. I look back through the doorway of the carriage at Astrid, who lies doubled over on the berth, clutching Theo. I should stay and comfort her, but I need to know what Luke learns from his father. Watch Astrid, too, I instruct Elsie. Both of them. I'll be back as soon as I can. I should tell Astrid myself that I am going, but I don't want her to ask questions. I'm ready now, I tell Luke, putting my hand in his as he starts in the direction of the trees. Luke leads me through the forest down a path where I have not been before. A chilling breeze, colder than I have felt in weeks, causes the trees to dance wildly above us, casting ghostly shadows on the moonlit ground. Several minutes later, the woods break to a sloping pasture that ends at a villa. I am not sure what I expected the mayor's residence to look like. Something more grand, or ominous, or at least a bit larger. But it is a traditional French country house, a long sloping gray slate roof broken by 3 windows. There is a flagstone path ending at a rounded door, ivy climbing the wall on each side. A bicycle leans against the adjacent fence. It is the middle of the night, and I'd expected the house to be quiet. But behind the curtain, the lights are still on. I stop in my tracks, suddenly losing my nerve. Maybe this was a mistake. That's what I was trying to tell you before. If Papa sees you... Luke starts to push me into the low shrubs beside the fence. The bicycle that is leaning there tumbles to the hard ground with a clatter. Before I can hide, the front door opens, and a man appears in a smoking jacket. "Luke?" he calls, peering into the darkness. He is an older version of his son, wizened and stooped, but with the same blue eyes and chiseled features. He might have been handsome in his day. "Is that you?" In his voice I hear concern. A father, for all his faults, still worried about his son. Hardly the villain I had imagined. A rich, garlicky smell comes from inside the house. Coq au vin for dinner early, perhaps, mixed with cigar smoke. The mayor steps outside, squinting in the darkness. As his eyes adjust, they lock on me. I stiffen. "You're the circus girl," the mayor says, a note of disdain in his voice. "What do you want?" Luke clears his throat. "One of their performers has been arrested," he says. The mayor stiffens, and for a moment I think he will deny it. But then he nods. "The Russian clown." Peter is so much more than that, I want to protest. Astrid's husband, the heart of the circus. "Surely you can do something." Luke's voice is pleading, fighting for us. "He was performing acts mocking the Reich," the mayor states flatly. His voice is cold. "The Germans want to try him for treason." I picture Astrid, hear her cries as they had taken Peter. "At least let us see him then," I venture. The mayor raises his eyebrows, surprised I have spoken. "That's quite impossible." He's going to be a father, I want to say, appealing to the mayor as one who has a son. But I have sworn to keep her secret, and I doubt it would sway the mayor. Our circus owner died tonight, and we need Peter so much more now. Please, I beg, searching for the right words and not finding them. "It's out of my hands," the mayor replies. "He's been taken to the old army camp on the outskirts of town to be deported, sent east, First thing in the morning." A distressed look crosses Luke's face. "I thought they weren't using the camp anymore." "They aren't," his father replies, a note of grimness to his voice. "Only for special cases." "Papa, do something," Luke says, trying again, still wanting to believe. I see now the boy who had defended his father, even after the awful things he had done. "I can't," the mayor says flatly. "You won't even help your son?" Luke demands. There is a new forcefulness to his voice. "I suppose it isn't surprising since you sold out your own people." "How dare you!" he thunders. "I'm your father. My father helped people. My father would never have stood by while our friends and neighbors were arrested. And he would have done something to help now. You are not my father," Luke spits. And I wonder if he has gone too far. "If Mama were here, enough!" the mayor barks, voice cutting through the still night air. "You have no idea the things I've faced, or the choices I've had to make to protect you. If your mother was here, it is you she'd be ashamed of. You were never like this before." His eyes shoot daggers in my direction. "It must be her doing. Circus trash with no upbringing." Luke steps forward, putting himself between his father and me. "Don't say such things about Noah." "Never mind," the mayor replies, dismissing me with a wave of his hand. "They'll be gone soon enough. You should come inside now, Luke." "No," Luke says, meeting his father's eyes. "I can't stay here. Not anymore." He turns to me. "Let's go." "Luke, wait!" the mayor calls, his voice rising with surprise. "Goodbye, Papa." Luke takes my hand and leads me away from the villa, leaving the mayor alone in the doorway. "Are you sure you want to do this?" I ask, as we pass through the gate. Luke keeps walking, eyes forward. His strides are so long, I almost have to skip to keep up. We reach the edge of the forest. "Wait," I say, stopping. "Are you sure? If you need to go back, I understand. He's your father, after all." "I'm not going back," he replies. "You mean, ever?" I ask. He nods. "But where will you go?" I ask, my concern for him rising. Luke does not answer, but instead takes me in his arms and presses his lips against mine hard, as though trying to wipe away what had just happened. I return his kisses, willing us back to earlier that night before everything had changed. Then he breaks away. "I'm sorry, Noah," he says. For a moment, I think he is talking about the kiss. "About Peter?" I ask. "Don't be. You tried. Not just for that. For all of it." He kisses me once more. "Goodbye, Noah." Then he starts away in the other direction through the trees, leaving me behind. Chapter 20. Noah. The funeral takes place the next day on a too sunny morning in the local cemetery, a nest of leaning headstones along the same hilly road on the far side of Tiers we'd climbed the day of the arrival parade. Herr Neuhoff's is a lone grave behind the rest, overhung by a willow tree. Looking down at the closed oak casket, I imagine how he must look inside. Lifeless body gray and waxy in his magnificent ringmaster's suit. He does not belong here. He should be back in Germany, resting beside his wife. Instead, he will lie here forever. Sadness engulfs me. He had been everything to us, protected us, and now he is gone. In the end, it was Herr Neuhoff's health that had killed him. His heart condition had been worsening right before us, although he'd done his best to hide it so we would not worry. The stress of keeping the circus going could not have helped. We had all been too caught up in our own concerns to notice. Then the struggle with the police had simply been the final straw. Or so we thought. We would never really know. We stand uncertainly around the coffin. Someone should say something about the benefactor who meant so much to us. But we have no minister. Peter is gone, and Astrid is in no shape. At the front, close to the gravesite, Emmett stands alone, tears streaming down his fat cheeks. The rest of the circus folk keep their distance, and I cannot help but feel sorry for him. As the gravediggers lower the coffin, I stifle a cry. I want to reach out and touch it one more time, as if doing so could turn back time to just a few days earlier, when everything was all right. Astrid steps forward and throws a handful of dirt into the hole in the ground. I follow her example, breathing in the deep, earthy smell, feeling the darkness below. Though I have never been to a funeral before, the ritual feels somehow familiar. I stare down into the dark hole. Thank you, I say silently to Herr Neuhoff, for saving Theo and me, for all of it. In my whole life, there has never been anyone who has done more. I step back and brush the dirt off my hands, then lace my fingers with Astrid's. Swallowing back the lump that has formed in my throat, I study Astrid's face out of the corner of my eye. Her skin is pale, and her eyes hollow. But she has not cried. How is that possible? A few days ago, she was beginning her life with Peter. Now all of it is gone. She shudders, and I put my arm around her, our grief pressing silently together. My eyes burn, and I blink back the tears. Astrid has done so much to care for and protect me. It is my turn to be strong for her now. I wrap my arm more tightly around her shoulders. Then the funeral is over, and we start the long, slow walk back to the fairgrounds. In the distance, bells peal 11. I take a last look over my shoulder at the gravesite. As we skirt the edge of town, I can see wagons and lorries climbing the steep road to the market square. Children walking to school more quietly than they once had. Where is Luke, I wonder? Even now I can't help but think of him and his proposal that we run away together. For a minute, even as I said no, I could see a glimmer of hope. A life that we might have had together. Now that, like everything else, seems gone. I have not seen him since the night of Peter's arrest, and there was no note in the belly box when I checked the past 2 mornings. I half expected him to turn up at the funeral and pay respects, but he hadn't. Maybe he sensed that he would not be welcome, or that Astrid might blame him yet again for all that had happened. When we reach the fairgrounds, we do not return to the train, but mill around the backyard, like parentless children. We should rehearse for the show, Goethe says. I had nearly forgotten. It is Tuesday, with a performance tonight. Tickets have been sold and crowds will come. But we have no ringmaster, one of the horseback riders points out. Heads nod. Performing without Herr Neuhoff is hard to imagine. Once Peter might have filled in, but he is gone too. I can do it, Emmett says. All eyes travel warily in his direction. He does not have the personality to engage the crowd. I've never even seen him set foot in the ring. But there is no other choice.
It's only for one day before we leave, he adds. We can figure out something else after that. 1 day?
Helmet, the animal trainer, asks.
What do you mean? We aren't supposed to move on to the next village until Friday.
I recall Astrid telling me we would stay in Tiers for 3 weeks before moving on to the next town, and we are still days short of that.
We pack after tonight's show, Emmett replies. Tear everything down. And we aren't going to the next town.
My skin prickles.
We're turning back to a site near Strasbourg, in Alsace-Lorraine.
He delivers the bad news like it is some sort of trump card. There is a collective gasp. Tonight. The word bounces around in my brain. Emmett had told us the circus would be sent back, but I never expected it to actually happen so soon. I turn back toward Astrid, seeking her help, but she stands numbly, as if she hasn't heard.
Alsace?
One of the acrobats murmurs. That might as well be Germany. I remember what Astrid had told me about Herr Neuhoff fighting to find us a way to stay in France. Can we appeal? I dare to ask.
Emmett shakes his head. My father tried to get the order changed before all of this happened. Our request was rejected.
With Peter's arrest and everything that happened, there would be no reprieve. And Emmett is not a fighter. He would always choose the course of least resistance. We can't count on him to ask again.
So we will perform in Alsace.
I tense, flooded with fear. I can't go back so close to Germany with Theo. It would be far too dangerous. I look southeast toward the hills and imagine what it would be like to take Theo and run. But I couldn't possibly abandon Astrid, especially now.
What about the cities in France we've booked?
I ask. Heads turn in my direction.
If we start canceling, we won't be invited back next year. Think of the money we will lose. Next year?
Emmett sneers, gesturing behind him.
The circus is dying, Noah. There is no money. We've lost our ringmaster, and the Germans have just taken one of our star performers.
A choking noise, not quite a sob, catches in Astrid's throat. Emmett continues.
They've humored us to a point, but whether it is now or a few months from now, this is the end. How much longer did you think this could go on?
We have to keep going, Astrid says. It is the first time she has spoken since before the funeral, and her voice has none of its usual strength.
To save you?
Emmett retorts. To save all of us, I interject, including you. Do you know what the Germans do to those who hide people? I step back, fearful I've said more than I should. Emmett's eyes widen.
We will keep going where we've been ordered for the rest of the season.
He relents.
At least as long as we can manage financially. Papa did not leave much.
A murmur travels among the performers. We grieve Herr Neuhoff, of course, and we will do so for a long time. The hole created by his loss is vast. But there is a practical side of things, too. How would the circus go on without him? Could it?
Surely your father had an insurance policy?
Helmet asks. All eyes look expectantly at Emmett, who shifts uneasily.
I believe my father had to cash it out last winter. We needed the money for expenses.
He's telling the truth, Astrid says quietly. It is just as well, I think. The money would have gone to Emmett as his heir, and he would not have used it for the greater good of the circus. There was a will, though, Astrid continues. Jealousy registers in Emmett's eyes. He had not known his father or his affairs as well as Astrid. It had a provision that the circus is not to be sold. Behind me, someone exhales. No one would buy the circus in these times, but if possible, Emmett would have sold it for the profits and run.
That's ridiculous,
Emmett flares. He had assumed that whatever was left would be his, that he would have free rein to do what he wanted. He had not expected this. And it stipulates that all of the performers are to be kept on, unless there is misconduct. Astrid adds.
At least I have one less performer to pay,
Emmett says coldly, crossing his arms as he delivers this final blow. Astrid, seemingly defeated, does not reply. I motion to put my arm around her, but she shrugs me off and begins to walk away.
Don't,
she says as I start to follow. She raises an arm to ward me off.
I've arranged a late breakfast for everyone,
Emmett says, sounding eager to end the discussion. We make our way wordlessly toward the cook tent. Fresh smells of sausage and rich brewing coffee tickle my nose. Inside, the few kitchen workers who had remained behind during the funeral have laid out a breakfast bigger than I have seen since we traveled to France. Eggs, and even a bit of real butter. A meal designed to comfort. I inventory the menu silently, cataloging as I always do, the bits I might be able to take back for Theo. So much food, I remark to one of the servers, who is refilling the plate of fried potatoes. It seems foolish to waste it all now, no? We won't have time to pack ice if we are leaving in a few hours, the server says. We have to eat the perishables now so they don't spoil. I take a piece of toast and some eggs for myself, then sit down at an empty table. Emmett comes over carrying a heaping plate of food, his appetite seemingly unaffected by grief. He sits down without asking. I have not been alone with him since he confronted me at the wedding, and I fight the urge to stand up and leave. Then I remember his sadness at the funeral. Such a hard day, I remark, trying to be kind.
Things are going to get even harder,
he replies tersely.
There will be changes when we reach Alsace. We'll have to let most of the workers go.
The laborers are part of the circus, and they come faithfully each year in exchange for steady work, a promise kept on both sides. How can he do this? I thought your father's will said everyone was to stay on, I offer.
His will only spoke of the performers,
he snaps. Surely your father intended—
My father isn't here anymore,
he says, cutting me off.
We can't afford to keep everyone on. We will find help locally as we go.
Just a minute earlier, I'd felt sorry for Emmett. Now my goodwill hardens. The wheels in his mind are turning, ready to bleed the circus of its talent, penny by penny, in order to draw the most benefit for the least possible work. His father's body is not even cold, and already Emmett is destroying things. He may be genuinely grieving his father, but he is also using it as an excuse for being as awful as he really wants.
We can make do with half as many if everyone pitches in, he adds.
The suggestion belies how little he knows about what we do. Even I understand the manpower and expertise that are needed. I look over my shoulder in the direction of the train. If only Astrid was here to reason with Emmett. Then I remember her worn face and weak voice. In her present condition, she would be in no shape to manage it. When will you tell them? I ask.
Not until we reach Alsace. The workers can stay with us until then.
Emmett says this benevolently, as if bestowing a great gift. But it is not for the laborers' benefit. He wants them to tear everything down, and to go back accounted for. What about their contracts? I ask.
Contracts?
Emmett repeats mockingly.
Only the performers have those.
I do not argue further. My eyes travel across the dining room toward the laborers' tables, where a thin, graying handyman is clearing his plate, shoulders hunched. I recalled a story about the Jewish handyman that Astrid had told me, the man Herr Neuhoff had given refuge. With Herr Neuhoff dead, and Emmett dismissing the workers, the man would have no sanctuary. Neither would Astrid, or any of the rest of us. Some of these people have no homes to go back to, I say, staying purposely vague.
You mean like the old Jew?
Emmett asks harshly. I am unable to hide the surprise on my face.
I know about him,
he adds. I instantly regret having spoken, but it is too late to turn back. If you tell him before we go, he might have the chance to escape before we leave.
Escape? He has no papers.
Emmett leans in close to me, his voice low, breath hot and sour.
I'm not telling him or the other workers now. And you better not either, if you know what is good for you.
He does not bother to hide his threat. My blood chills. Emmett would not hesitate to throw a person to the wolves if it suited his purpose, including me. Not wanting to listen any longer, I stand and pocket the napkin I used to wrap some eggs and toast for Theo. Excuse me, I say. I walk from the cook tent, back toward the train. As I cross the fairgrounds, I pass Drina, the fortune-teller, seated beneath a different tree, closer now than the time I had seen her before. She smiles faintly and holds her tarot deck up to me, an offering. But I shake my head. I no longer want to see the future. That night, the crowds are still making their way from the fairgrounds when the crews begin tearing down the circus. Unlike the raising of the big top, its demise is anticlimactic, a sight nobody wants to see. Poles clank as they fall upon one another, and the canvas begins to collapse like a parachute billowing to the earth. The enormous tent, once full of people and laughter, is gone, as though it was never there at all. I step over discarded programs and crushed popcorn kernels that have been matted into the ground. What will be here once we are gone? I scan the desolate scene, looking once more for Astrid. She had not come to the show. Earlier, as I prepared to perform, I kept searching the backyard, hoping, but she had not emerged from the train all night. It was the first time I had performed without her nearby, and I felt helpless, as though the safety net had somehow been removed. With Herr Neuhoff gone, I needed her more than ever. Goethe walks over to me. "Come," she says. "We should get changed and prepare to go." It is the most she had said to me since I joined the circus, and I wonder if she senses how lost I am without Astrid. "When do we go?" I ask, as we start back to the train to change. "Not for a few hours," Goethe replies. "They'll finish tearing down sometime after we are asleep, but Emmett has ordered everyone to remain on board." A few more hours until we leave Tears for good. Luke appears in my mind. I had not had the chance to tell him we were going or say goodbye. I gaze longingly over my shoulder in the direction of town, wondering if there is time to find Luke. I think about how I might sneak out unnoticed, But I wouldn't dare go to Luke's father's house after all that had happened, and I do not know where else I might find him. In the dressing car, the girls are quiet as they remove their costumes and makeup, and there is none of the excitement of when we'd left Darmstadt. When I have finished changing, I start back to the sleeper. I expect to find Astrid, as I so often do, holding Theo, but he is with Elsie. I take Theo from her. "Where's Astrid?" "She hasn't come back," Elsie replies. "Back?" I repeat. I had assumed that since she had not been at the show, she had stayed here in bed, as she had much of the time since Peter was arrested. "She hasn't been here since before the show," Elsie says. "I thought she was with you." I peer out the window of the sleeper. Where has Astrid gone? I hadn't seen her in the big top during the show, nor anywhere on the fairgrounds as the teardown had begun after. I carry Theo from the train and scan the length of the cars toward the front of the train, but I do not see Astrid. She wouldn't have gone far just as we are about to leave, unless she had gone in a last desperate attempt to find Peter. I look in the direction of town, my concern growing. Easy, I think. Even Astrid in her current state would have known that was impossible. My eyes travel the length of the train in the opposite direction, toward the rear, taking in the final carriage that had been Herr Neuhoff's. Then, taking in the one in front of it, I understand. Astrid did not leave. Instead, she has gone to the place where she felt closest to Peter. I start in the direction of his railcar. I find her lying in Peter's unmade bed, curled into a ball, facing away from me. She clutches the sheet in both hands. "Astrid?" I sit down beside her, relieved. "When I couldn't find you, I thought—" I do not finish the thought. Instead, I put my hand on her shoulder and gently roll her over, expecting to see tears at last. But her face is stony, eyes blank. Though the railcar is chilly, faint perspiration coats her upper lip. My concern rises again. "Astrid, are you feeling worse? Has your bleeding started again?" "No, of course not." I reach out and touch her head. "You still feel warm." I should have fought her harder when she refused to see a doctor, but now there is no time. I hand Theo to Astrid, then lie down beside them, smelling Peter in the soiled sheets, and trying not to think of the nights he and Astrid have spent here while on the road. I want to tell her what Emmett said about the workers, but I cannot burden her now. A moment later, her breathing evens, and when I look over, she is asleep. Theo squirms restlessly beside her, not ready to settle down in the unfamiliar space. There is a loud bang, and the whole carriage rocks with the force of something heavy being loaded into an adjacent railcar. "It will be all right," I say, more for myself than him. I press my palm gently against his back, moving it in small, soothing circles. His eyelids begin to flutter, staying closed longer for a second each time as they do when he is falling asleep. When Theo has quieted, I roll over, thinking of Luke. He would find out I had left, of course, but not until it was too late. Would he learn, too, where I had gone? Once he had promised to find me, but I can't see how that's possible. We will be hundreds of miles away. I sit up and peer out the window at the familiar sight of the fairgrounds, the forest leading to town behind it. We are still here. I can get off the train and go to Luke to let him know we are going, and still make it back in time without anyone noticing. Or maybe even take Theo and leave with Luke for good, I think, remembering his proposal. But where would we go? We have no papers to cross the border, no money for food and shelter. Then I look over at Astrid. Even if it were possible, I would not dare. I close my eyes. Some time later, there is a great heave, and the train struggles forward. I sit up once more and look southeast out the window, imagining the freedom that lies just a few 100 kilometers away in Switzerland. Beside me, Estrid's body rises and falls methodically with deep sleep. My fate is tied up with hers now, whatever happens. The train presses forward, and the town of Tears seems to shrink, growing lower and flatter into the earth as we pick up speed. And then it is gone. I touched the glass where the village had been seconds earlier, leaving Luke and our chance at freedom behind.
Chapter 21. Astrid. The squeak of a doorknob turning, hands pressing against hard wood. Through sleep, I think I am back in the winter quarters, Peter coming to tell me that he has found someone in the woods near Darmstadt. But when I open my eyes, I see that it is only Noah, hurrying into the tiny cabin we have shared in the past 5 days since reaching Alsace. I close my eyes once more, willing the vision of earlier times to return. Astrid! Noah's voice, tight with urgency, yanks me from my memories. I roll over. She is peering out the filthy window, her body stiff and face pale. You have to get up. Have they come again? I ask, struggling to sit. Before she can answer, there is a loud clattering outside. A police inspection. Officers rattling through the wagons and the tents. Once I might have run and hid, but there is no hiding place here. Let them take me, I think. There is a hard knock on the door that startles both of us. I sit up, reach for my robe. Theo lets out a wail. Noah opens the door to reveal 2 SS officers. Always 2, I muse. Except, of course, the night they had taken Peter. Wer ist da? One of the men, taller and thin, barks. Who is there? I'm Noah Weil, she offers, managing to keep the quaver from her voice. The officer gestures toward me. And her? A moment's hesitation. I'm Astrid Sorrel, I say, when Noah does not. The same as when you asked 2 days ago, I cannot help but add. What do they think will be so different each time? What did you say? He demands. Noah shoots me a withering look. Nothing, I mutter. No good can come from antagonizing them. The other officer takes a step into the cabin. Is she ill? He nods his head in my direction. Yes, I want to say. The Nazis are known to fear illness. Perhaps if they think I am contagious, they will leave us alone. No, Noah replies firmly, before I can answer. Her eyes dart nervously in my direction. And the child? He asks. My little brother, Noah says with conviction, the lie now long familiar. His papers are here as well. Are you thirsty, sirs? Noah offers, changing the subject before he can ask further questions. She reaches behind her bed and produces half a bottle of cognac I had not known she had. The man's eyes widen, then narrow again. It is a calculated risk. Will he take the bribe, or accuse her of stealing or hoarding the liquor? He takes the bottle and starts toward the door, the shorter man in tow. When they have gone, Noah closes the door. She picks up Theo and sinks to the bed beside me. I didn't think they would come again so soon after the last time, she says, shaken. Almost every day, like clockwork, I reply, turning away from her. looking out the window of the cabin where we have billeted since our arrival. In Alsace, the most worn of regions, all pretense of normalcy is gone. Across a thin strip of river lies the town of Colmar, its once elegant skyline of Renaissance churches and timber houses crumbled after the air raids. Trees that would have been blooming other years in early May snapped in half like twigs. German trucks and Kubelwagen line the roads. "The cognac," I say. "Where did you get it?" A guilty expression crosses Noah's face. "From Herr Neuhoff's rail car. Emmett was going through things the other day, taking what he wanted. I didn't think he would notice." That was smart thinking. Thank God she did not offer them food. Rations have shrunk to a fraction of what they were in Thiers. We barely have enough to feed ourselves and Theo. "But it's gone now," Noah frets. "They'll expect more next time." "We'll think of something," I say. I lie down once more, my throat scratchy from the halo of burnt smoke and coal dust that seems to hang constantly in the air. The cabin, just big enough for Noah, Theo, and myself, is scarcely a step above camping, with a roof that leaks and a floor that is mostly dirt. We cannot sleep on the train as we had in Thiers, for fear the British RAF pilots might bomb the rail lines. So we have moved to the low cabins, not much more than huts without indoor plumbing, once used as work sheds by workers at the adjacent quarry. Not that they are so much safer. The fairgrounds here are close to the roadway, and military vehicles rumble down it all night, making it a prime target for the air raids as well. Last night, the bombs fell so close, I pulled Noah and Theo under my cot, and we huddled against the cold earth until dawn. It has been nearly a week since Peter was arrested, taken God only knows where. I see it now in my waking thoughts, like a bad dream I cannot erase. Herr Neuhoff is gone too, left behind in a hillside grave in Auvergne. I wrap my arms around my stomach, feeling the hollowness and mourning all that will never be. After Eric and my family, I thought I had already lost everything, that nothing more could be taken from me. But this, the final blow, is too much. I had let myself hope again, against every promise I had made myself when I left Berlin. I let myself get close, and now I am paying the price. Noah presses her hand to my forehead. "No fever," she says, the relief evident in her voice. Bless her. She tries so very hard to care for me. Her concern is a drop of water, though, unable to fill the ocean of void in my heart. Noah reaches down and takes both of my hands in hers. "Astrid, I have good news." For a second, my heart lifts. Perhaps she has word of Peter. Then I catch myself. Can she bring back the dead? Turn back time? I pull away. There is no good news anymore. "Emmett said you can perform again," she says, then pauses, watching my face for a reaction. Does she expect me to leap up with joy and change into my practice leotard? Once, returning to the trapeze was all I wanted, but it does not matter anymore. "Let's go practice," Noah urges, still trying for all her best to make things better. It doesn't help at all, but I love her for caring. "Astrid, I know how hard this is, but lying here isn't going to change things. Why not fly again?" Because doing the normal things feels like accepting that Peter is gone, I think. A betrayal. "What's the point?" I ask finally. Noah hesitates. "Astrid, you must get up again." Why? She looks away, as if not wanting to tell me. Remember Yetta? Of course. Yetta had survived her fall and been sent to a hospital near Vichy to convalesce. I am suddenly uneasy. What about her? I asked Emmett about her before we left Thiers, and he said she was being sent back to Darmstadt to finish healing. But then I heard the workers whispering that she had been taken from the hospital and sent east on one of the trains. Noah's voice drops to a whisper. Arrested? I ask. Like Peter. Noah nods. No one is arrested for a broken leg, Noah. That's ridiculous. She didn't do anything wrong. But even as I say this, I doubt my own words. These days, a person could be arrested for just about anything, or nothing at all. They said if she couldn't perform, then her working papers were no longer valid, Noah continues. You have to get better, Astrid, for all of our sakes. I realized that this was why Noah was so quick to tell the Germans I was not sick. They can smell weakness and want nothing more than to exploit it. Please, come with me to the ring. If you don't feel well enough to practice, at least watch and tell me what to fix. Noah's voice is pleading. Performing with a gun to the head, I say. Where is the joy in that? It is not about joy now, though, but survival. And Noah is right. Lying here will not change things or bring Peter back. The circus, my act, they are the only things I have. Fine, I say, standing up. She takes Theo to the cabin where Elsie is staying as I find my practice leotard and hold it up to the light, remembering the last time I had worn it, feeling Peter's touch against the fabric. My throat grows scratchy. Perhaps I cannot do this after all. But I put on the leotard. When Noah returns, I let her lead me from the cabin. We cross the fairgrounds. The workers have done their best to assemble everything, from the beer tent to the carousel, exactly as they had been in Thiers. But the grounds here are abysmal. A dirt field at the edge of an abandoned stone quarry, uneven and pockmarked from fighting that had passed this way earlier in the war. As we near the big top, I glimpse the trapeze through the open flap. Then I stop. How can I ever fly again, knowing that Peter will not be there to see me? Noah takes my hand. Astrid, please. I can do it, I say, shaking her off. Inside, I can see that nothing is right. The tent has been shoddily erected with the grounds not properly prepared, and with less than half the workers, most local and inexperienced. What would Herr Neuhoff have thought of his grand circus, now in tatters? The will had stipulated that the circus go on, but there are 1,000 little details it could not account for. About wages and living conditions and working hours and such. It would be easy to blame Emmett. The downfall of the circus had not begun with him, though. The cracks had been months or years in coming. Only now, in this godforsaken village with no one to lead us, the weaknesses have been exposed, their full depth revealed. Enough. I steel myself. With the circus in such a state, Noah and the others need me more than ever. I start forward with new determination, pull back the flap of the big top, then lift my head to appraise the state of the trapeze apparatus. Above, a dark, unfamiliar object catches my eye. For a second, I think it is one of the other aerialists rehearsing. I step back, not ready to face anyone else yet. The person in the air does not move with any force, though, but rather hangs limply. What on earth? I move closely for a better look. From the Spanish web, where I had once performed, hangs the lifeless body of Metz, the clockmaker.
Astrid, what is it?
Noah asks as I sink to the ground. It is almost impossible to hear her over the buzzing in my ears growing louder.
Are you feeling okay?
She asks. Her gaze is focused downward on me, not seeing the horror of what I see above.
This was a mistake. Let me help you get back to bed.
Call for the workers,
I command. But even as I say this, I know it is too late.
Go now.
I want her to leave the tent to spare her from the sight. But her eyes follow my gaze upward, and she lets out a blood-curdling scream. I grab Noah by the shoulders and force her from the big top. The laborers, I order again, more firmly now. Go! Alone now, I stare up at Metz. I had seen Herr Neuhoff die just days earlier. But this is different. Metz died because he was a Jew, and because he thought all hope was gone. That could have been me. I stand silently, touching my coat where the star should have been, a moment of solidarity.
In the big top,
I hear Noah calling outside.
Please hurry!
2 workers rush into the tent. I stand alone, watching as the laborers climb the ladder, then try to reach out with the long pole we used to pull in the trapeze bar in order to retrieve Metz. I turn away, sickened, and not wanting to see any more. Noah hurries back in, Emmett close behind.
Damn it,
he swears. Should we call the police? Noah asks.
No, of course not,
Emmett snaps.
We can't afford to attract attention from the police.
But if someone killed him, we have to report it,
she protests with more force than I imagined she might show against Emmett. He does not answer, but storms from the tent. I put my hand on her shoulder.
No one killed him. He killed himself.
What? I watch her expression as she grapples with the idea.
Surely you've heard of suicide.
Yes, of course. But how can you be sure?
There are no signs of a struggle, I explain. I just wish I knew why.
Noah's face crumples.
He must have found out.
Found out what? I demand. She hesitates, and I can tell she has been keeping something from me.
Emmett said he was letting the workers go.
What? I am stunned by the notion. Metz must have somehow learned of Emmett's plan. With his family gone and no chance of sanctuary, he had given up, taken his life instead of letting it be taken. He had not seen another way out.
I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner,
Noah says quickly.
Emmett threatened me if I said anything, and I didn't want to worry you.
Not listening to the rest of her explanation, I walk from the tent. Word has spread quickly through the fairgrounds, and workers and performers have clustered outside the big top. I circle the gathering and find Emmett on the far side, standing uneasy and separate from the others.
How could you?
I demand.
We need these people.
His eyes widen.
You've been lying around for days, and now you want to tell me how to run the show? He snarls. You've got some nerve.
It's you who's got the nerve, Emmett.
Noah's voice comes from behind me.
If you had told them before we left Thiers, that man might have had a chance.
This is none of your concern, he counters.
Are you going to tell them, or am I?
He is caught off guard by Noah's defiance. The others draw closer now, having overheard.
Tell us what?
One of the acrobats demands. Emmett shifts uncomfortably, then turns to the crowd that has assembled.
I'm sorry to tell you that the circus is nearly out of money. We will be letting all of the workers go.
Except for the foreman, I interject quickly. I am overstepping my place, but I do not care. I continue quickly before Emmett can protest.
And those who have been with the circus for more than 5 years.
If everyone left at once, there would be no one to run the show.
God damn it,
one of the workers swears.
You can't do this.
There's no other choice, Emmett replies coldly.
You will each receive 2 weeks' pay and the train ticket home, I add.
Isn't that right, Emmett? Emmett glares at me. Clearly he had not been planning that.
Yes, of course, if you go peacefully. Now, if you will excuse me, I have business to attend to.
He slinks away, keeping his eyes on us as if afraid to turn his back. When he has gone, the workers begin to dissipate, still grumbling. The performers, spared for now, go more quietly to rehearse. At last, only Noah and I remain outside the big top. Behind us, there is a clattering noise, and I turn in time to see the 2 workers who had gotten Metz down carry his body from the big top.
Oh,
Noah says, covering her mouth with her hand.
Astrid, I still don't understand it. Even if things were so bad, you would just give up like that.
Don't judge, I say, the rebuke in my voice sharper than I intended. Sometimes the running just gets to be too much.
Chapter 22. Noah. The next day, Emmett blocks my way as I start from the cook tent back to our cabin after breakfast.
"Where's Astrid?"
he demands, arms crossed.
"She isn't back to practicing?"
He presses. Not yet, I say. I shift a bowl of porridge I've taken for Astrid out of his view.
"Now that we are out of tears, there's no reason for her not to rejoin the show. So why hasn't she?"
She doesn't feel well, I say, lying for Astrid instinctively, even though it could cost me my job if Emmett found out. In some sense, it is true. And we tried yesterday. You saw that. But then there was that business with the worker. He waves his hand as though the clockmaker was of no consequence.
"She needs to be back in the show by tomorrow,"
Emmett says.
"Everyone has to pull his weight around here. No more lollygagging for that one,"
he adds. The notion of Astrid being lazy is so ridiculous I almost laugh aloud. I want to argue again that it is too soon for her to swing again, after all that she has been through, that she needs a few more days to get back on her feet. But I know he will not be swayed. Taking my silence as agreement, he continues on. I begin to walk again, pulling my coat over my head to avoid the thick spring drizzle that has begun to fall. I peer across the roadway, where a thin strip of river separates us from the town of Colmar. I had crossed the bridge into town once since our arrival, to see if there was anything to be had at market beyond our tiny rations. But my trip had been useless. The lone seller at what had once been a bustling town market had only some unidentifiable meat, which would have been too tough for Theo, even without the foul smell. Indeed, the whole town seemed to be stripped bare by the years of war. The streets were nearly deserted at midday, except for a stray dog by the gutter, and the SS, who seemed to watch from every corner. The shutters on the houses and shops were drawn. The faces of the few townsfolk I saw, all women, since the local men had been drafted against their will and sent in droves to fight in the east, were pinched by hunger and fear. We might as well have been back in Germany. I hurried from the town center, past the barbed wire and ditches that had been erected as a kind of haphazard fortification around the perimeter, and returned to the fairgrounds. I had not gone into town again since. I head toward the cabin, recalling Emmett's angry red face as he insisted Astrid perform. Since we arrived in Alsace nearly a week ago, She has lain in bed, curled up like a wounded animal. Other than her one attempt to return to the big top, that ended when we found the clockmaker, she hasn't left the cabin. I've stayed close, doing what I can for her. It is not enough, though. Every last bit of her will seems gone. Save her, Peter's eyes had seemed to say in those final minutes before he was taken. But how? Even if I feed her, make her drink, her spirit is gone. I can barely care for Theo and myself. Under the weight of all three of us, I will break. What will Emmett do if Astrid refuses to return to the show? I shiver at the thought. I need to get her up and moving. As I pass the train parked and empty at the end of the line, my eyes travel wistfully to the underside of our sleeper car and the belly box where Luke and I had once left word for one another. I wonder if Luke might have followed the circus after we had left Tears, but know that it is impossible. I walk to the box and pull it open, almost hoping that something might be there. Of course it is empty. I run my hand over the rough wood, imagining Luke doing the same. Inside the cabin, I am surprised to find Astrid sitting up on the bed in her dressing gown. "Peter," Astrid says as I near. I freeze. Has she gone mad from all of her grief? "No, it's me, Noah," I say, stepping closer. She is not having delusions of Peter, but rather staring at a crumpled photograph. I approach Astrid carefully and get a better look at the picture. It is one I have never seen before of the two of them sitting in the backyard, under a parasol on a sunny day in street clothes, not costume. Where was that taken? As she passes it to me, I notice that her once perfect manicure is gone, the nails shredded where she has chewed on them. A little town just outside Salzburg. It was in summer. The first season after I returned. Before I had arrived, I think. It feels strange to imagine the circus when I was not here. We weren't together yet, you know. Just getting to know each other. She smiles, her eyes far away. We would talk and play cards for hours. He was fierce at card games. Gin, rummy, poker. We would start with a drink in the afternoon, and the next thing I knew, the whole night had passed. I studied the photograph. Even then, Peter's eyes were somber, as though he knew what was to come. It would have been his birthday tomorrow, she adds, and her expression saddens once more. She speaks as though he is already dead. I fight the urge to correct her, not wanting to offer false hope. From the other cot, Theo stirs. I pick him up, kissing the top of his head. Our one blessing. Through all of the hardship, Theo has thrived. His cheeks are still round, and his hair has grown thick and curly, a dark meringue. Still holding Theo, I sit down beside Astrid gently. Everything has been taken from her. A chance at a child, the man she loves. She simply has nothing left. Except us. I wrap my arms around her. But it is not my warmth she seeks. She reaches for Theo and I pass him to her, offering one of the few comforts that remain, pressing him into her arms. She clings to him like a buoy at sea, seeming to draw strength from his tiny body. I pick up the still warm bowl of porridge and bring it closer to her, but she shakes her head. Astrid, you have to eat. I'm not hungry. Think of Peter. I am thinking of him. Every second, I know. But is this what he would want for you? She reluctantly takes a mouthful and turns away once more. Emmett was asking for you. I say hesitantly. She raises an eyebrow. Again? I nod. He is the boss, and even Astrid will push him only so far. But what can he do to her, really? Please, Astrid. We need you. I need you. Astrid is my only friend in the world, and I am losing her. Astrid raises an eyebrow, as though the thought has never quite occurred to her. She sighs, then stands up. She takes off her dressing gown, and I am surprised to find she is already wearing her leotard. Gratitude washes over me. She will not let me down. Let's rehearse, she commands. We step outside. It is mid-morning, and the backyard is busy with trainers feeding the animals, performers on their way to practice. The few laborers who remain struggle to mend equipment and put things in place, with a third of their usual number. At the door of the tent, she turns to me. I don't want to do this. Is it Peter? Or the baby? Or Mets? I wonder. I squeeze her hand. I understand. But you can do it. I know you can. At least she is here, willing to try. I start for the ladder. Then, looking up where the man had hung, my stomach turns. I stop, still holding on to the ladder and staring upward. I wonder if the memory of the clockmaker will stop Astrid. But she climbs the opposite ladder without hesitation. Then, halfway up, she stops and grows concerned. Something is not right, she says. Nothing is right. The fairgrounds had not been prepared when we arrived, the earth rough and strewn with debris. I asked about leveling the ground, I say. I've performed here with Goethe a handful of times, gotten used to the rickety apparatus and the way that the slope of the earth changes my fall. But Astrid has not been here since we've come to the town. To her, it is jarring, a disgrace. Is it the ladder? I ask, tugging on it to show her that it is firmly secured. But she shakes her head sadly. It is just everything. I watch her intently, waiting for her to climb back down and insist on seeing the head of the grounds crew. She might refuse to perform. Then she shrugs and keeps climbing. Even this does not matter anymore. She reaches the top and grabs the bar, nearly losing her balance. It is too soon, I fret. Forcing her back to the trapeze so quickly had been a mistake. But she rights herself. I start up the ladder, wondering if she will need my help. But she holds out her hand to ward me off. I need to do this myself. I step away from the ladder and back close to the entrance, standing in the shadow of the tent flap and giving her space to find the trapeze once more on her own. She leaps without hesitation, seeming to grow stronger and more assured as I watch. I had wondered if the days away from the act or all her body had been through would slow Astrid or make her rusty. But it is the opposite. Her moves are more intense, razor sharp. Once she had held the trapeze bar lightly, with an artist's touch, but now she grasps it like a lifeline. Her moves are punishing, as if trying to break a wild mare or great steed, taking out her anger on the trapeze itself. She vaults through a series of dizzying pirouettes and somersaults. I sense a slight movement of air around me, and I can almost feel Peter admiring her performance with me, as he once had. There is a noise behind me. I turn for a second, actually expecting that Peter might be standing there. But of course he is not, and the space behind me is empty. The wind howls through the campground, shaking the tarp and making the sound I had just heard once more. I relax slightly. Then suddenly an arm grabs me from behind without warning. Before I can cry out, someone pulls me from the tent, I jerk away and turn, preparing to fight my attacker. There, in the entrance to the big top, stands Luke. Luke! I blink, wondering if his tall, dark figure before me is some sort of strange dream. But he is here. I stare at him in disbelief. How had he made it all this way to see me? Noah, he says, reaching out and touching my cheek. I throw myself into his arms, and he wraps them tightly around me. I pull him farther away from the big top, behind the shelter of a shed. It is best if no one sees him. How did you find us?
I came to the circus looking for you, Luke says. But you left.
His face falls.
After that, I went back to my father's house. I hadn't planned to, he adds quickly, but I needed to see if he knew where the circus had gone. I didn't want to believe that this might be partly his doing, but I had to know.
I can tell from the pain in his eyes that even after everything that has happened, part of him still wanted to believe in his father.
He denied it, of course, but I found the order in his desk with his signature on it.
Luke's voice is heavy with sadness.
I confronted him with it, and he admitted the truth. Then I left to find you.
I imagine his journey across the miles to reach me. He kisses me long and full on the lips. His face is rough from not shaving, his lips salty and unwashed. A moment later we break apart. Though it has been only a few days, his face looks thinner, cheekbones chiseled. His eyes are ringed, as though he has not slept for days. Have you eaten? You need rest. I search the fairgrounds for a place where I might hide him. He waves his hand, as though the question is unimportant.
I'm fine.
I lean against him, and he holds me close. I'm so sorry I had to leave without telling you.
I knew you wouldn't have gone like that if you had a choice. That something must have happened.
I can see the depth of his concern for me in his eyes. You found me, I say, nestling closer against him.
I found you, he repeats. The question is, what now?
He pulls away from me, straightening, and I see the conflict in his eyes. He is hundreds of miles from home. Will he simply say goodbye and go back again?
I don't want to lose you again, Noah, he says.
And I hold my breath, waiting for him to propose a life together once more.
But I'm going to join the Maquis.
Hearing this, my hope deflates. I have heard of the resistance fighters who operate from the woods, but I have never seen them, and they seem like the stuff of legend compared to the timid villagers. It sounds dangerous, and far away.
There's a unit of them east of here in the WWII forest, and if I can get there, I can help,
he adds. But that's so dangerous, I protest, lifting my head to meet his eyes. He smooths back my hair.
I'm not running, Noah. You've taught me not to be afraid. For once in my life, I'm going to stand my ground and fight.
So it's my fault, then, that you are going to get yourself killed? I demand, only half joking. Luke smiles. Then, as he takes my hand, his face grows serious once more.
I only meant that this thing between you and me has opened my eyes. I can't sit by and watch anymore. I have to do something. And the work that the resistance is doing, disrupting communication and the rails, is more important than ever to prepare for the Allied invasion. There's talk that it's coming soon, now that the weather has improved.
He draws me close to him once more, wrapping his arms around me and kissing the top of my head.
I don't want to leave you, though. It's time for something more. For both of us. If If you would consider going with me.
To the Maki? I ask.
Yes. There are some women, too, who are helping with their work.
I realize, proudly, that he is thinking of me, and that I am strong enough.
Would you?
He asks, eyes hopeful. I want so much to say yes. If only it were that simple. I can't, I say, putting my hand on his chest. You know that.
If it's about Theo, we can find a safe place for him until this is all over,
he replies, putting his hand on top of mine and lacing our fingers together.
Then we could raise him as our own.
I know, but it's more than that. Astrid, she's risked everything for us. I can't abandon her now. Once Astrid might have managed on her own, but she can no longer manage for herself. Everything has been taken from her except us.
I thought you would say as much.
His face grows resolute.
I have to do this, though. There is no place for me at home anymore.
When will you go? I ask.
Tonight. If I set out after dark across the hills, I should be able to find the Maquis encampment before dawn.
He pauses.
If only you were going with me.
I know, but I'm not. And so this is goodbye. I wrap my arms more tightly around him. We stand together, pressed close, willing the moment to last just a bit longer. I pull back slightly to peer back toward the tent. I should go. Astrid is waiting for me. He nods. I'm so worried about her, I confide. First losing the baby, and now Peter.
I'm sorry I couldn't do more,
he adds, his voice low with guilt. You mustn't blame yourself. I don't.
Actually, that is the other reason I came.
I don't understand, I say. What other reason could there be?
I should have told you sooner, only I was so excited to see you again.
He reaches into his pocket and pulls out an envelope.
A letter came to the village.
He holds it out, and I imagine the worst. News coming from across the miles. Has something happened to my family? But as I start to reach for it, he pulls his hand back.
It's not for you.
I take it from him anyway, and seeing the Berlin postmark on the envelope, my breath catches. The letter is for Astrid.
Chapter 23. Astrid. 40 feet. That is what stands between life and death, the thinnest sliver of a divide. I came back to the ring as I said I would, and pretended to rehearse for Noah, and leaped as though nothing had changed. She had disappeared from the tent, though, leaving me alone, and so I returned to the board. The movement of flying through the air had once meant everything to me. Now each swing is like a knife through my heart. The cavernous space high above the ring, which had been home, is almost unbearable. I peer over the edge of the board as if it is a cliff, staring into the abyss of the net below. I tried to kill myself once, after Eric told me to leave. He'd walked from the apartment, ostensibly to give me time to pack and go, unable to bear watching, or maybe to avoid the hysterics he considered so uncivilized. I'd run to the cupboard and grabbed a bottle of pills and vodka, impulsively downing as much as I could of both. I imagined him finding my body and crying over what he had done. But after a few minutes, I realized he wasn't coming back to check. He had already cut me from his life. Instantly remorseful, I put my hands down my throat and brought up the half-digested mess. I had sworn then never to live for a man again. This loss is more, though. It is everything. Pushing the memory away, I leap and try to fly once more. There is nothing left for me here, though. Jump, let go of it all. The thoughts tick rhythmically through my head with each swing. Unable to stand it any longer, I launch myself back to the board a second time. My legs tremble as I look down. Was this how it had been for the clockmaker? I see him hanging from the ropes with his neck broken, mouth agape, limbs stiff. I could jump, end it as surely as Metz had. If I die here, it will be on my own terms, not at the hands of others. I stretch one foot over the edge of the board, testing. "Astrid?" Noah calls from the entranceway below. Startled, I wobble, grabbing onto the ladder to steady myself. I had been so caught up in my thoughts, I had not seen her return. Her face is a mask of worry. Had she seen what I was contemplating, or guessed? She does not seem to notice what I've been up to, though. Instead, she motions me toward her, watching somberly as I climb down the ladder. "What's wrong?" I demand as my uneasiness grows. "Tell me." She holds out an envelope to me. "A letter came for you." I freeze. Letters can only mean bad news. I take it with trembling hands, bracing for news of Peter. The envelope bears postage markings from Darmstadt, though. I hold it at arm's length, as though its contents might be contagious. Just for a moment, I want to remain suspended in time, shielded from whatever is written there. But I have never been any good at hiding from the truth. I tear open the seal. Inside is another envelope, addressed to me. Not at the Circus Neuhof, but rather my family's former winter quarters. From Berlin. Eric's blocky script reaches out like a hand. Ingrid Klempt, he'd written, using my maiden name, not his. Even after so much time, the rejection still stings. Someone, whoever had forwarded the letter, had crossed it out and added my stage name, Astrid Sorrel. I drop the envelope. Noah retrieves it quickly and hands it to me. What could Eric possibly want?
"Do you want me to open it for you?"
Noah asks gently. I shake my head. I can do it. I rip open the envelope, which is stained and worn. A slip of paper flutters out. My eyes fill with tears as I pick it up, and the familiar handwriting, not Eric's, appears. "Dearest Ingrid, I pray that this letter has reached you, and that it finds you well and safe. I fled Monte Carlo ahead of the invasion, and did not have time to write. But I have reached Florida, and found work at a carnival." "What is it?" Noah asks.
"Jules. My youngest brother, the weakest and most improbable, had somehow survived. He must have sent the letter to me in Berlin, and Eric had sent it on. I thought they were all... So did I. My heart beats faster now. Jules is alive in America." "But how?" Noah asks. "I don't know," I reply, scarcely able to process my own questions, let alone Noah's. "Jules was managing the circus in the south of France when the war started. Somehow he made it out."
I continue reading silently.
"I wrote to Mama and Papa for months, but received no response. I do not know if you have heard, but I am so very sorry to tell you that they died in a camp in Poland." Oh! I cover my mouth to stop the sob that rips from my throat. Though I have long known in my heart my parents could not have possibly escaped, some part of me had clung to the hope that they might still be alive. Now I am confronted with the truth, and it is so much worse. "What is it?" Noah asks. She bends to read the letter over my shoulder. Then she wraps her arms around me from behind and rocks me back and forth gently. "Astrid, I'm so sorry." I do not answer, but sit silently, letting it sink in that the very worst I had feared is true. "There's more to the letter," Noah says gently several seconds later. She gestures to the paper that lies crumpled in my lap, pointing to the text a few lines down where I had stopped reading after learning about my parents. I shake my head. I cannot. She takes the paper and clears her throat, then begins to read aloud. "I have not been able to find the twins. It may be well that it is only the two of us now. I know that you do not want to leave your husband, but I have arranged for a visa at the Swiss consulate in Lisbon. They say it is good for 45 days. Please consider coming to me, at least until the war is over, and then you can return. We only have each other now. Yours, Jules." I try to process it all as Noah hands the paper back to me. The envelope bears official markings from Berlin. Jules had sent it to the apartment Eric and I once shared. Eric must have read it, and then sent it on by courier, trying his hardest to make sure it reached me. He had forwarded it to my family's home in Darmstadt, knowing somehow that I would go there. But there are no winter quarters for my family anymore, so the postmaster must have delivered it to the Neuhoff estate. Perhaps Helga, who remained behind each year to mind the winter quarters in our absence, had corrected my name and forwarded it onward to our first stop in Thiers. "How did it get here?" I ask. Noah clears her throat. "Forwarded from Thiers," she says. I nod. The Circus always leaves the address of its next destination behind for bills and other mail. So many stops along the way. The letter might have never reached me at all. But it had. "My family," I say out loud. I am not sure what that means anymore. The sob that I have held back for so many months rips from my throat. I am crying then for the brother who had lived, and for the so many others who had not. My parents and brothers, all gone. Or so I have thought these many months. But Jules is alive. I remember our goodbye at the station in Darmstadt a few years ago, made hasty by Eric's impatience to board the train. I picture Jules as he must look now, a bit older, but still exactly the same. Somewhere, a tiny part of our family's Circus dynasty persists, like a seed carried to a new land to be planted. I look down at the envelope again, which is thicker than it should be if empty. There's something else in here. Two things, actually. I pull out first a bank receipt of some sort, but it is in an unfamiliar language, and the only words I recognize are my own name. What on earth? Noah steps forward. "May I see it?" she asks. I hand her the paper. "I can't read it, but it looks like money for your journey, placed in your bank account in Lisbon." She hands it back. I stare at her, dumbfounded. I have no such account. "It looks like it was opened about 6 weeks ago," she adds, pointing to the date. "Did your brother put it there?" I study the paper. I don't think so. There is a loan transaction, a deposit from Berlin. 10,000 marks. Enough money for me to get wherever I need to go, including America. Then who? I take a deep breath. Eric, having read Jules' letter, wanted to make sure I had the resources to go to my brother in America. He had given me the very last and only gift he could, a chance at escape. I shake the envelope one last time and pull out a small card. A German exit permit, also filled out in Eric's blocky script, and bearing the official seal of the Reich. He had thought of everything, to make sure I could get out of the occupied territories and reach safety with Jules. Had Eric done it out of guilt or love? Though it is a part of my past before Peter, so long ago it seems almost like a dream. Part of me cannot help but ache for the man who cared enough to do all of this, but not enough to fight for us. Astrid, you can go to your brother. Noah's expression lifts with hope at the prospect of my finding safety. Then conflict crosses her face as she realizes that she will be left behind. I can't leave you, I say. Suddenly, she looks even more young and vulnerable than the day she arrived. How can she possibly manage without me? You go. Theo and I will be fine, she replies, trying without success to force the quaver from her voice. Then, scanning the papers again, she frowns. Your brother's letter said the visa is good for 45 days. The letter took over a month to get here. And there's no telling how long it will take you to get to Lisbon, or to the States from there. You need to go right away, tonight. You will go, won't you? Noah asks, her voice somehow filled with hope and dread at the same time. Not answering, I start for the train. But Astrid, Noah calls after me. I thought we were going to practice. Of course, if you are leaving. It doesn't matter anymore, I finish for her silently. You go on without me, I say. After all the news, it is really too much. I walk back to the cabin where Elsie is minding Theo. Darling boy, I say. His face breaks into a wide smile of recognition. As I go to take him from her, he reaches his arms for me for the very first time. Something inside me wells up then. Another wave of sorrow, rising and threatening to break. I push it down. Later, there will be time for tears. Now I must figure out what to do. I draw Theo close, holding him in one arm, the pass in the other, as if weighing each on a scale. How can I abandon him and Noah? With Peter gone, they are all I have left in the world. Or so I thought, until Jules's letter came today. Now I must think about him too. I am the only family he has left. And he worked so very hard to get this visa to me, my one chance at safety. Letting it go to waste would be a crime. Theo swats at my chin with his tiny hand, breaking me from my thoughts. His dark eyes look up at me searchingly. The idea of leaving Noah and Theo alone to face an uncertain fate is unfathomable. There has got to be another way. My eyes travel to the cot. Beneath it, Noah's trunk and mine are lined up neatly side by side. A plan begins to form in my mind. I set Theo down on the bed, then reach for my bag to pack.
Chapter 24. Noah. Watching Astrid walk back toward the cabin, I am filled with sadness. When Luke had first handed me the envelope, I had considered not giving it to Astrid. More bad news would surely break her. I could not hide the truth from her, though. and now she is leaving. I can't blame her. I could see from the conflict in her eyes that the decision to leave us behind hadn't come easily. She has known me and Theo only a few months. We shouldn't matter at all. Not when she has family. Real family that needs her. Part of me wants to run after her, though, and beg her not to leave me. Luke pokes his head around the side of the shed where he has been hiding. "Wait here," I'd instructed him, before racing to hand the letter to Astrid. I did not want her to see him, but I also wasn't ready to have him disappear and leave me so soon, after we had just found each other again. Taking him in now, I feel suddenly guilty. I had lied to Astrid about how the letter had gotten here, but I could not bear to admit to her, on top of everything else, that I had broken my promise not to see Luke.
"Is everything all right?"
he asks. "No," I say. "That is, yes and no. Astrid learned that her parents are dead."
"That's awful,"
he replies, his voice heavy with understanding.
"I thought I was helping by bringing the letter."
"You were helping," I insist. "But how did you get it?"
"A few days ago, I was in the post office when I heard a woman remark about the circus leaving suddenly. She said awful things, that the circus had taken money for shows and fled. I spoke up to tell her she was wrong. When the postmaster overheard, he said there was mail for the circus. He said he had a forwarding address, but when I saw it was a letter for Astrid, I knew I had to bring it myself. I thought maybe it was news of Peter."
His voice trails off, and I can see how guilty he still feels.
"Now I wish I hadn't,"
he finishes sadly. "No, she had to know the truth," I reply. "I'm glad you came. It wasn't all bad. Astrid's brother sent a pass from America. He wants her to come live with him." My voice breaks slightly as I say this last part.
"That's good news, isn't it?"
Luke asks, sounding confused. A lump forms in my throat, making it hard to answer. "I suppose," I manage, embarrassed by my selfishness. I want so very much to be happy for Astrid that she will be safe and free. I just can't imagine the circus without her, I add. There is a commotion behind us, voices as two of the acrobats walk toward the big top. Luke pulls me behind the shed so as not to be seen.
"Now you can reconsider,"
he says. I tilt my head, puzzled.
"You said before you wouldn't go with me because you couldn't leave Astrid."
My mind is still reeling from everything that has happened with Astrid, and I had nearly forgotten our earlier conversation.
"But everything is different now."
Luke's voice rises with urgency.
"If she is going, surely you can too."
In the rush of the moment, I had not thought about it. Luke is right, though. With Astrid gone, there will be nothing to keep me here. I can take Theo and go. Gazing up at the big top and the backyard behind it, though, I feel a tug of doubt. The circus is the only safety I have known since my parents kicked me out. I can't imagine being here without Astrid, but I can't imagine leaving. The circus won't be here much longer, either, I remind myself. Emmett said he was closing it down at the end of the season. Then that, too, will be gone.
"Noah."
Luke's voice is heavy with concern.
"Once the police realize Astrid has left, there will be questions."
There will be more than questions. Emmett will be furious at losing one of his star performers.
"It won't be safe for you here anymore. You'll go with me now, won't you?"
I gaze at him longingly, torn between the life I know with the circus and the possibility of a future with Luke.
"Trust me,"
he pleads, his eyes round and full. I already do, a voice deep within me says. Something clicks in my mind, snaps into place. I'll do it. With Theo. I add quickly. Of course. Luke replies, as though that was never in doubt. Then conflict washes over his face. But how? If we go to the partisans, there will be no place for a child. I could never go without him, I insist. We'll find a way, Luke replies, taking my hand. All of us will stay together. His voice is certain. Theo is his as much as mine now. I throw my arms around his neck gratefully. So you'll go? His lips are on my cheek, then my neck. 1,000 small kisses of persuasion. Yes, yes, I cry. But a second later, I force myself to pull away. We are together in broad daylight, scarcely concealed by the budding trees. The reality sinks in. I will be leaving the circus with Luke. But before we can start a life together, I have to tell him everything. I can't go forward under the pretense of a lie. Luke, I have to go now, he says, not hearing me. I have the name of a resistance contact about 10 kilometers from here, who can tell me the best way for us to reach the maquis. He looks over his shoulder. I will be back for you before nightfall. Where can I find you? I ask. There's a ravine on the other side of the stone quarry, he replies, pointing. About 1 kilometer east. I'll meet you there at 9 o'clock. But the show will only be half over. I know, but we have to leave then to make it safely to the Vosges forest before dawn. Can you manage it? I nod, and he kisses me and starts to go. Luke, wait. He turns back. I am desperate to tell him the truth, but his face looks so hopeful I cannot. I will see you at 9. He starts off, his step light. I want to call after him again, not ready to have him go. But soon he will be back, and next time I will go with him. As I turn back toward the big top, sadness tugs at me. It is all changing. I have only just found this place, the closest I have felt to home, and I am going, again. I can't help but wonder where it will all end, and where I will be when I can finally stop running at last. The sky is growing dusky pink as I near the dressing car to prepare for my final performance. I watch the other girls, putting on costumes and makeup as though it is any other show. I am relieved. They do not suspect anything. The difference is there, though, in the way Astrid puts on my rosin and wraps my wrists, the same as every night, but with so much more care. Feeling her warm, sure touch on my forearms, I am filled with sadness once more. We will both be going in our separate directions. There was no reason to expect that we would stay together. It's not as if we are really family. The end has come so much sooner than I expected, though. I want to confide in her about Luke and my plan to go with him. But she will never understand. I can't just leave and not tell her, though. Perhaps a note. The other girls have finished dressing now and are heading to the big top. But Astrid lingers. She pulls out a bag, softer than a suitcase, which I had not noticed before, tucked under one of the dressing tables. She rearranges something in the bag, which is small enough so as not to attract attention. The belongings she will take with her. The lump in my throat reforms and grows larger. You'll send word, of course, to let us know you are safe? I ask, my voice no more than a whisper. She does not answer, but nods slightly as she continues pressing down the clothes, trying to make a bit more room. Of course I will not be here to receive her message. I will be gone, and she will not even know it. Impulsively, I reach to hug her, but she stiffens and holds me back. I flush, slapped by the rejection. What is it? I wonder if I have done something to anger her once more.
I'm not going.
What do you mean? Of course you are. For a second I wonder if she is joking, but her expression is serious, eyes somber. I prepare to remake all of the earlier arguments about how she cannot stay and how foolish it would be to waste a pass. You're going, I repeat. She shakes her head.
You are.
I stare at her in disbelief. I don't understand. Astrid is holding out the envelope that Luke had brought.
You need the pass to take Theo and go.
I do not reach for it, and her hand dangles in midair. You can't give that to me.
You'll take my Kankata, she continues. The photo is not that good. If you dye your hair, keep your head low, no one will know you aren't me. And you will be able to take a child on the papers.
You can't be serious. I step around her to the bag she has been packing, rummage through. Beneath a thin layer of her own clothes are Theo's cloth diapers and spare booties. She has been planning this all along. Then she holds out the pass to me once more.
You must leave tonight, just before the show ends. There's a train station, not the one we arrived at, but another, about 15 kilometers south. You will take the train to Lisbon and get the pass at the consulate.
She makes it all sound so straightforward, like going into town for bread.
Then use Eric's money to buy a ticket.
She continues on with her instructions, but I do not hear. Luke's face appears in my mind. I am supposed to be going with him, starting a life together. Noticing the hesitation on my face, she stops mid-sentence.
What is it?
She demands impatiently, as if I am questioning her judgment on an aerial routine. The pass is Astrid's one chance at survival, and she is willing to give it all up for me.
I won't take it, I say. Staying here as a Jew is suicide. Exactly, which is why you need to take Theo and go.
The pass is yours. You have to use it, I persist, standing up to her more than I ever have.
I've thought it all through, she replies, undeterred. This is for the best. It's the only option.
There's another way. I take a deep breath. Just take Theo. That way you will both be safe. The words scratch my throat like shards of glass. I could give her Theo, and then they would both be safe. But letting go of him would kill me.
No. Theo belongs with you, Astrid insists. You're the one who must go.
I am going, I think. With Luke. But of course Astrid does not know this. She is willing to give everything for me, and I am still lying to her.
Astrid, I say slowly.
I am going.
I don't understand, she says,
her forehead nodding.
You just said you won't take the pass, so how can you possibly leave?
No, but Luke...
I start. Him again?
She cuts me off, eyes narrowing.
The mayor's son.
What does he have to do with anything? He's here, in Alsace. Storm clouds seem to form in her eyes. He brought the letter here from your brother, I add, hoping that it will help. But I can tell from the fury in her eyes that it hasn't.
You promised. No, swore to me that you wouldn't see him again, she flares. Yet you did, even after everything he cost me.
I didn't mean to. I protest weakly. Then I stop, unwilling to lie again. I'm sorry I didn't tell you. Luke's going to the Maquis. I wonder if this will make her respect him more. But her anger does not seem to soften.
Then good for him.
Good riddance is what her tone really seems to say.
On safe journey,
she adds, without warmth. I feel myself growing angry at Astrid. Luke tried to help Peter, risked his own life to bring her the letter from Jules. And yet for everything he has done for us, she still cannot allow herself to accept him. She hates him for who he is. She will never see him differently.
I still don't see what that has to do with you taking the pass,
she adds. Luke has gone to make contact with the resistance, and then he is coming back. He wants me to go with him. There is silence. Astrid staring at me in stunned disbelief. And Theo, I add. Luke wants to care for him as well.
When?
She asks, finally. Tonight.
So you were going to leave with him, without telling me. You were just going to sneak off.
I was going to go after you had gone, I say, as if this somehow makes things better. I'm sorry.
You were going to take Theo where exactly? She demands. You would have no shelter, or a transit pass, or even decent papers. There's no place for a child, no one to watch him there for you. What were you planning to do? Carry him as you run around the forest with the partisans?
As she ticks off all of the failures in my plan, now laid bare, I see all of the things that Luke and I hadn't thought through in the rush of the moment.
We'll manage, I say stubbornly. But that doesn't matter anymore, Astrid declares. You have the pass now, and you are leaving.
I try again. Surely leaving with Luke would be safer than going alone.
Astrid shakes her head firmly. Getting to Lisbon and out of Europe would be safest. You must be strong on your own now. You have to do what is best for Theo.
She holds out the pass again, as if it is all decided. I start to take the envelope. Then I hesitate, seeing Luke and a life together waiting for us. I hand it back.
No,
I say, hearing the strength in my voice, deciding for myself now. My future is with Luke. And if I go with him, Astrid will take the pass. That way we both have a chance. Her eyes widen with surprise.
How dare you? I've offered you everything, and you want to give it up for some boy?
It isn't that simple, I begin.
I'm telling you one last time. Take the pass and go.
She holds it out to me, her voice cold as steel. The space between us seems to grow. I look at Astrid, wavering. Going with Luke against her wishes now will surely be the final break. Once I would have done whatever Astrid had asked, done anything for her approval. But something had changed these last days. I've been the one who has had to take care of Astrid, make decisions for her. For all of us, really. I can't simply listen anymore. I have to do what I think best. I'm sorry, I say, stepping back. Her eyes widen with surprise, then narrow again with anger. Then she turns away. Astrid, wait, I say, trying again. If only I can make her understand. But she stalks off, leaving me alone. In the distance, the bell rings. signaling the audience to their seats, and beckoning us, one last time, to the air. Chapter 25. Noah. So it is to be the last show. Tears stream down my own cheeks now as the opening music builds to a crescendo and the house lights dim. What's wrong with me? I thought I wanted this, to leave the circus and find a path to freedom for myself and Theo, and have a future with Luke. But I've just found this life, and have only just learned to love it. I am not ready to go.
Aerialists, trapeze! Someone calls.
I step into the big top, looking for Astrid. I do not see her, and I wonder if she is so angry that she will refuse to perform with me. But a moment later she appears from the opposite side of the tent and starts toward the ring, jaw clenched. I hesitate. How can we perform as a team when she is furious with me? The audience waits in the darkness, though, expecting and unaware. There is no other choice. I climb the ladder opposite Astrid and grab the bar.
Hup!
She calls, voice seething. I fly through the air toward her. As I release, I see it. The rage, no, the hurt and betrayal in her eyes. Her hands do not reach for mine. She wants to miss, to fail me as I had her. Falling here would not be as it had been when we were in the winter quarters, or even the previous village. The net has been poorly erected, and the ground below is rock hard. If I fall here, I will die. I close my eyes as I start to plunge downward, away from her. Then something grabs my ankles hard. Astrid, saving me against her own will. But she is a beat too late, and has grabbed the thin part of my instep rather than my ankle, making it impossible for her to hang on. I am slipping through her fingers. Desperately, Astrid flings me in the direction of the bar for the return, with none of her usual precision. She throws me so hard that I somersault through the air. The audience cheers, mistaking near miss for a daring new feat. My arms find the bar. I swing back to the board and clamber up clumsily. As I straighten, I want to end the act there. This has already gone too far. But Astrid waits on the opposite platform, commanding me to finish what we have started.
Hup!
Before I can answer, there is a boom, followed by rumbling and a louder thud. We exchange nervous glances, the anger between us forgotten for a moment. Air raids are nothing new. They have come since the start of the war, first by the Germans to weaken countries they wanted to occupy, and more recently by the Allies on German territories. They come in crude, bold strokes, not caring who might be in the way. Since our return to Alsace, they have come almost daily. But this is the first time it has happened during the show. The tent has to be the biggest building outside town. Might it make a good target from the air? There comes another rumbling, closer this time. A few guests flee their seats for the exits as sawdust and plaster shake from the tent poles like snow. The big top offers no protection at all. Perhaps we should end the show and have everyone return home. My eyes lock with Astrid's. Keep performing, her gaze commands. We can't afford to start giving out the refunds that the crowds would surely demand if we canceled the rest of the show. My hands shake as I reach for the bar, and another explosion threatens to send me falling. But I clasp on tighter. One more pass is all that stands between me and freedom.
Hup!
I fly through the air, and Astrid catches me, then sends me back for a final time. Then it is over, and the audience offers a smattering of applause. Time to go at last. I make my way from the big top and cross the backyard to the cabin where Theo and Elsie, who is supposed to be watching him, both sleep. I change into street clothes before picking up the bag that Astrid had packed. I lift Theo, who stirs and watches me with drowsy eyes, onto my other hip. Time to go, I whisper to him, before starting from the cabin. As I cross the backyard, I spot Astrid once more. She waves me over. For a fleeting second, I hoped that our performing together might have softened her anger. But as I near, her eyes still burn. She snatches Theo from me. "This I shall miss," she says, clutching him to her breast. "Astrid." I search for the words to make things better between us, but find none.
"Just go,"
she commands, as she passes Theo back to me. He gives a single cry of protest.
"At least I will never have to see you again."
Her words are like a knife, and as she turns and walks away, I know there will be no more goodbyes. I start after her. I can't bear to go with Astrid furious at me, but there is no choice. I told Luke I would meet him at 9 o'clock, just 15 minutes from now. I have to find him. From the tent comes the boom of the music. Emmett's voice warbles over the loudspeaker, so far short of what his father's had been. I look back with gratitude. The circus has been my haven, my safety and my home, in a way I had never expected. Even now, when it is broken and near the end, the circus is the truest family I know. Once I leave, what hope is there of ever feeling this way again? Then I square my shoulders as I start away with Theo. What will he remember of all this? I force myself not to linger as I pass the train cars. I run low so as not to be seen, taking care not to jostle Theo too hard. "Faster," I hear Astrid urge in my mind as I pick up speed, heading east in the direction Luke had said. I wish for the shelter of trees, but the earth here is barren and exposed. Someone might see us at any moment, ask why I am fleeing. I will myself to slow, walk normally as I struggle to catch my breath. As I start toward the quarry, and the laughter and applause of the crowd fade behind me, my doubts about leaving bubble once more. How can we possibly survive, the two of us with a child and nothing more? I push my misgivings aside. I want to go with Luke. I see the image of a life together that he promised. Despite my fears, there would be two of us, united in our struggle for our survival, and Theo's. Without him, I would be alone. Again. We are well away from the circus now, and the earth grows rocky, slopes sharply downward. I clutch Theo tightly, navigating the steep slope. The path I followed ends at what appears to be a pit of roughly cut stone. Luke said he would be there at intermission, waiting for me. But the quarry is empty. It is early, I tell myself, pushing down my unease. I search the brush that shoots out between the rocks at the far end of the quarry, wondering if he is hiding. The branches remain motionless, though, the air still. 5 minutes pass, then 10. Luke is still not here. A list of excuses runs through my mind. He got lost. He had to double back to make sure he wasn't followed. Maybe he had become ill. Theo, tired or perhaps hungry, begins to fuss. "Shh," I soothe, fishing in my pocket for a piece of cracker I'd left there earlier. Just a little longer. I look over the edge of the quarry pit, across the flat, empty field. Dread forms and sinks heavy in my stomach. Luke is not coming. How is this happening? Our plans were certain. Panic fills me. Maybe something had happened to Luke. I see his face, just hours earlier. He had asked, no, begged me to go with him, and he had seemed so happy when I said yes. Had he changed his mind and decided that having me and Theo along was too much? Or maybe Astrid had been right all along. I stand still in the cold, dark quarry, tears stinging at my eyes, foolish and abandoned yet again. Something brushes my cheek then. Theo is looking up at me, his soft fingers reaching out to me as they had in the woods the night I had taken him from the boxcar. Bits of that night come back in flashes, a small fist clenched stiffly, never to be opened again. Arms reaching for a mother no longer there. Images I cannot bear to keep in the light of day. A sob tears through me. I had not cried when my father held open the door and forced me out into the cold with nothing more than my purse, nor when I'd seen the rail car of stolen infants, dead and dying. Now the tears race forth, and I am grieving for all of it. I press my hands to my eyes, willing the visions to stop. It is hopeless. I will carry that night at the train car with me forever. Saving Theo had been not just for him. It had been my chance at redemption. Maybe it still is. I see Astrid standing before me, holding out a ticket to freedom. She is so angry that I don't know if she would give it to me now. And there is some part of me that does not want to take the pass, her only chance at survival. But I owe it to Theo to try. I look up at the sky. You are never going back, Astrid said once. She is right. I can no more count on Luke than on my family for salvation. Instead, I will get us to a place where Theo will be safe, and a day at the circus would not be taken from him just because he is a Jew, where people would not stare at him oddly. It isn't Luke, or even my parents I am looking for anymore. It is a home of my own. I peer over my shoulder in the direction of the big top. If I go back now and join the final bow, no one but Astrid will realize that I have gone. I can ask her for the pass after the show. I shift Theo to my other hip. He cries openly now, his wails cutting through the darkness as I navigate the steep slope out of the quarry. Shh, I soothe. I take one last hopeful look over my shoulder in the direction from which Luke should have come. Seeing no one, I turn and start back to the circus. I near the big top once more. Then, remembering the anger on Astrid's face as I left earlier, I slow. What can I possibly say to make her forgive me? As I reach the backyard, I hear the music of the final act trumpeting gaily, building to a fever pitch. The circus is assembling for the final bow. Through the tent flap, I see the place where I usually stand at the top of the board, and I imagine the confused face of Goethe, who is normally beside me, wondering where I have gone. Longing fills me to go where I belong, amid the circus family one last time. And even though I am sad Luke did not come, and we will be leaving again soon, part of me cannot help but feel glad to be home. But as I draw close to the circus tent, my happiness fades. There is a strange smell in the air, like someone overcooked the caramel corn, only stronger. Something tickles at my nose then. A burning smell. There is a fire, and close. I think back to the air raid we'd heard during our act. No bombs had hit nearby, but perhaps there had been stray shrapnel, or even a cigarette thrown carelessly on the midway. Is it the big top? We have always taken such great precautions against fire. Looking up, I see something flickering in the cloth by the hauptmast. A flame, growing larger even as I watch. Nobody, not anyone among the remaining crowds that linger in the tent, nor the performers making their way to the backyard, seems to have noticed yet. No one except me. I clutch Theo tighter and break into a dead run.
Chapter 26. Astrid. I stand on the board above the circus ring, alone once more. After Noah had gone, I climbed to the board. Good riddance, I wanted to say, as I imagined her leaving. Instead, I found myself aching with loss. Still, it was not Noah whom I cursed in that moment, but me. How I hated myself for caring yet again. It was Eric abandoning me all over. I remembered the lesson I had learned the day I left Berlin, seared it into my brain now as I should have long ago. The only one I could rely on in this life was me. It is just as well, I think now. With Noah leaving, I am free to use the past to go to my brother. After the final bow, I will slip away before anyone notices. Pushing thoughts of Noah and Theo aside, I instead focus on Jules, who is waiting for me. My cue comes in the music, and I unfasten the ropes from their moorings. Emmett had told me at the last minute that he added the Spanish web routine back into the second act. It was only then that I noticed the new ropes, hastily installed where the clockmaker had hung just days earlier. I wanted to protest. It wasn't that I was sentimental about Metz. Rather, I hadn't rehearsed it in weeks, and the trapeze alone would be exhausting enough. But I didn't want to give Emmett cause to fight. After all, it was to be the last show before I slipped away forever. I wrap the ropes around myself and step from the board. There is no bar to hold tight, just two thin slips of satin. I spin around them, extend my leg. If flying trapeze is like gymnastics, as I once told Noah, then Spanish web is like swimming, seamless and graceful. Or at least they once were. Now my arms are weak from weeks of not training, and my movements are jerky. I struggle through the routine, but the audience does not seem to notice. I make my way back to the board as applause thunders, my body bathed in sweat. I do not climb down. My act is just before the finale, and I need to remain here for the final bow. As the elephants prance, interspersed with riders on horseback, there is a yell from below. "Fire!" someone calls. I see it then. A flicker of flames behind one of the bleachers, growing higher by the second. The flames are only on one side of the tent. If everyone evacuates to the far exit, it will be fine. We have done drills for fire before. Herr Neuhoff or Peter, if either was here, would have urged calm. "Fire!" a woman screams again, and everyone begins to run, crushing one another as they flee the stands, falling. Spectators in the first few rows flood into the ring, panicking the elephants and sending them charging. I look frantically at the nightmare that is unfolding below. The entire top of the tent burns now. Once the workers would have grabbed the buckets of sand and water, always placed by each pole with such care, and fought to save the big top. But they are almost all gone now, dismissed by Emmett. A strong man tosses sand and then flings the bucket before running in the other direction. The trainers try to save the elephants, coaxing them from the tent. But the beasts fight rescue, planting their feet in panic, and the trainers flee, every creature for itself. The tiger lies motionless on its side, overcome by smoke. What would the circus be without it? Against the burning sky, I see the dark shadow of Emmett fleeing, a coward until the end. I stand immobilized on the board, watching the scene below as if from a great distance or in a film. But the heat, growing uncomfortable against my skin, reminds me that it is real. I remember how earlier, before I received Jules' letter, I wanted to die. If I do nothing, it will all be over. Would that be so awful? I feel Jules and a life in America slipping away like a dream. No, I shake my head, clearing it. My brother is waiting for me. I have to get out. I start for the ladder. But as I begin to climb down, one of the elephants spins, knocking against the ladder and loosening it from its moorings. It sways precariously. I cling to the rungs as the ladder starts to pull out. It lists to one side, threatening to fall at any second. I look around desperately. The bar for the catch trap is a few feet above me, almost out of reach. I lunge out, clawing at it with one hand. My fingers wrap around the bar. What now? There are too many people below, scurrying under the net for me to drop safely. I eye the far board, then kick my feet hard to try to swing up to it. But it is too far away. No use. I hang helplessly, smoke filling my lungs and causing my eyes to burn. My arms, already exhausted from the show, throb with pain. I must hold on. A few more minutes, and there won't be anyone below me to injure when I fall. But it will be too late. The net below burns now, making a safe landing impossible. "Astrid!" a voice calls through the smoky haze. Noah. She stands at the entrance to the big top. Why had she come back? She starts toward me with wide, desperate eyes. "Astrid, hold on!" She looks down at Theo, who squirms in her arms, then up to me, uncertain what to do. I see her hold out Theo to one of the dancers, begging her to take him outside, away from the smoke and searing heat. But the dancer panics and flees, leaving the child behind. Noah starts toward the far ladder, still holding Theo. "Get out!" I cry. What is she thinking, risking the child and herself like that? But she continues climbing. At the top, she sets Theo down as far back as she possibly can, so he will not roll off, and secures the edge of his blanket to the board. Then she grabs the bar and leaps, looking out of place in her street clothes. "Astrid, reach for me," she calls as she swings close. I do not let go. She has never caught in her life. She cannot possibly manage it. "Astrid, we have to get out." Noah saving me is the last thing I want right now. "Peter would want you to fight," she adds. "Don't give up like this." "Peter is gone," I say numbly. "I know, but we're here. And if you don't let go, we will all die, even Theo. Astrid, you have to let go." Her words, an echo of mine to her when she first came to the show, are true. Desperately, I spin and wrap my legs around the bar, stretching my arms toward her. I give a swing and reach out to her. She misses, and I try again. Our hands lock, and a look of triumph forms in her eyes. "I've got you," she says. But I do not return the smile. This changes nothing. "Just get us back," I order. But how? She cannot possibly swing me back to the perch. "There," I say, pointing to a corner of the net close to the ladder where there is no fire. "Throw me in that direction." "You want me to drop you?" Her eyes are wide with disbelief. "There's no other choice. Aim for the corner and fling hard." She looks down uncertainly. "You have to do it now." In another few minutes, the rest of the net will be in flames, my one chance at escape gone. "You have to let go." She takes a deep breath and kicks her legs to gain momentum and swing us closer in that direction. I hold my breath. Noah has never been a catcher or thrown anyone in her entire life. But she releases me then, and her aim is good. I sail smoothly downward, body taut and knees soft, and land in the bit of the net that is intact just by the edge. I look back up at the trapeze where Noah still hangs, wishing I could tell her to jump too. But Theo is still up on the perch. "Quickly!" I cry. She swings herself back higher, desperate to reach the board. She slips, nearly falling. But her fingers grasp the edge, and she pulls herself up onto it. Noah picks up Theo and starts down the ladder. But her movements are slow and awkward as she tries to climb while holding the child who, hysterical with terror, screams and flails in her arms. "Here!" I cry, racing to the bottom of the ladder. "Take him!" she shouts, dropping Theo to me, almost throwing him. He lands in my arms with a solid thump, bawling louder. I cover Theo's nose and mouth. I have to get him out of here. A man trying to flee the tent slams into me, sending waves of pain through my shoulder. I cling harder to Theo so as not to drop him. I look at the open door where cool, fresh air beckons against the fullness in my lungs. Overhead, there is a creaking sound, which grows to a groan. "Get out!" someone screams, pushing me toward the exit. Then I turn back. Noah is still struggling to get to the ground, but she is too high for me to reach her. The entire ladder begins to sway, listing hard in one direction. There is a thunderous crashing, and the trapeze apparatus begins to come down above me. The chapiteau has been weakened by the flames, and the whole thing is starting to collapse. I slip through the tent flap, clutching Theo. With a deafening crash, the big top falls, raining fire down, and Noah disappears from sight.
Chapter 27. Noah. Theo is missing. I reach for him frantically in the darkness, but my arms close around nothing, as they had that night I tried to reach him on the roof of the rail station. He is gone. "Theo!" I cry over and over. There is no response. "Here he is." Astrid. She sounds so far away. I try to open my eyes, but glass shards grind at my face, and I can manage only a slit. Enough to see Theo, whom she has placed on top of me. He is here, but I cannot feel him through the searing pain, worse than 1,000 bee stings. I am lying on the ground, some 15 feet from the big top. How had I gotten here? In the distance, what is left of the chapiteau smolders, reduced to a pile of charred canvas and broken poles. The fire brigade, too late, waters the wreckage so it does not spark and catch fire to the parched nearby forest. I reach for Theo, but Astrid presses me back down gently. "No," I manage hoarsely. "I must." She moves him higher on my chest without letting go. "Is he all right?" "Perfectly fine," she assures me. I search the child to see if the smoke had harmed his tiny lungs. He gives one cough, a protest. His coloring is good, though, his eyes bright. Then I lie back, unable to hold my head up any longer. "Rest," Astrid urges, and as she pulls Theo back, I can see there are burn marks on her arms. "What happened?" I ask. She hesitates, as if not wanting to tell me. "I'm not a child, remember? No more hiding the truth." "The tent collapsed on top of you," she answers quietly. I relive the moment in my mind, feel her pulling me from the fiery wreckage falling upon me and crushing me to the earth. "I can't feel my legs," I say, gasping for air. There is a sharp pain as I breathe inward, Then a spasm of coughs shoots daggers through me. Astrid wipes my mouth with her sleeve, and when she pulls back, it is stained with red. Panic crosses her face, and she looks around desperately. "Medic!" she cries. And I can tell from her cracked voice that it is not the first time she has tried to get me help. But no one answers or comes to our aid. It is only us now. "Help will be here soon," Astrid promises. In the distance, I hear the whir of a siren. The police will be here soon, too. There will be questions, an investigation. The pass, I remember. Astrid is supposed to be leaving right now. After tonight, it will be useless. You have to go. She waves her hand, as though swatting a fly. I won't leave you. A few minutes earlier, she wanted me gone. But she is not angry anymore. At last, she has forgiven me. She knows all of my secrets now, and has not turned away, which is the one thing I wanted all along. Relief rises over my pain. You have to go. I raise my hand and touch Theo. Take him. The words hurt my throat. But Astrid begins to protest. Now, I add, or it will be too late. I lie back weakly. You can still go, she presses, unwilling to see the truth before her. I'll give the pass to you like I said earlier. You can leave with Theo, and the two of you can be together. Her voice is so earnest that for a second I almost believe it. No, I say, as reality crashes down on me once more. My dream of escaping to freedom with Theo has been destroyed. I cough again, wheezing for air. I'm going to find help, Astrid says again, starting to rise. Stay with me. I use my last bit of energy to catch her hand. I'm not going to make it. She shakes her head, but at the same time, she is unable to deny the truth before her. I can't leave you behind, she says, still fighting. What choice do we have? The circus is gone. The fire has undone what war could not. You have to take Theo. You're his only hope. Theo squirms on my lap, as if recognizing his own name for the first time. I run my hand over the softness of his head, and in that moment, I see before me the man whom he will grow to be. He will not know me. Tears flow from my eyes, burning the raw flesh of my cheeks. Like his birth parents, I will fade from his memory forever. Someday you'll have to let him go. Astrid's words, spoken on the night of the first show, come back to me as clearly as though she is saying them now, though her lips do not move at all, like one of Drina's predictions come true. You did it, she says through her tears. You became an aerialist. And in that moment, I have everything. Almost everything. Luke, I say. Though he failed me, I cannot help but think of him. Pain shoots through me as I remember Luke's betrayal. You were right about him. I tried to go meet him like we planned, but he never came. He didn't care for me at all. No, that can't be right, Astrid protests. He came all this way for you. It doesn't make sense. I'm sure he had a reason. If you want, I will try to find Luke for you, she offers instead. Find out why he couldn't meet you, and tell him what happened. We both know that's impossible. He has disappeared, and she has no way of finding him. but I love her for offering. First you praise my flying, and now you are being nice about Luke, I rasp. I really must be dying. We both laugh so improbably then. My throat scratchy as an old record on a phonograph. My chest heaves with pain. Estrid takes Theo from me, cradling him in her arms. If only they were mine. She lifts her head. There is a kind of clarity to her now, and in the shine of her eyes, I see the many siblings of the great Circus family that had gone before her. A few hours earlier, I was not sure she could survive herself. How will she flee and care for Theo? But she seems stronger than she had been since losing Peter. And with Theo, she will not be alone. He looks at me as she rocks him gently, not understanding. Go now, before it is too late, I manage, using the last bit of strength I have left. Estrid does not protest, but kisses my cheek, then lowers Theo to do the same. They need to leave now while no one is watching. I close my eyes, knowing that she will not go while I am still here. She does not leave, but lies down beside me, still holding Theo. I will my breath to slow, and suddenly it is the three of us back in the railcar, sleeping together as one. I feel her shift away, and the space beside me grows cold, as she rises and starts for the trees. I force my eyes to stay shut, unable to watch them leave. When I open them again, they are gone. But I am not alone. The sky has cleared, and as I look up at the field of stars, not quite yellow, I see faces. First, Peter, looking down on Estrid, watching over her. I did it. I had saved her, though not at all in the way he had planned. Then farther in the distance of the night sky, I see Luke. I will never know why he did not meet me, but I forgive him. Wait for me, my love. I am coming. And finally, I see Herr Neuhoff. In the end, after the performers had taken their final bows and slipped from the stage, he stands as he had started, alone in the spotlight. He sweeps the crowd with his gaze, gives that tip of his head, an invitation and a farewell. And then, darkness.
Epilogue. Astrid. Paris. I was never the one who was supposed to make it. My eyes clear. I am still standing before the boxcar in the museum exhibit, staring at the empty berth. I can almost feel Noah lying beside me, cheek warm against mine, as our breaths rise and fall in unison. It was still dark when Noah's porcelain eyes closed for that last time. I had seen broken bodies before, the clockmaker, and even once a trainer gored by a tiger. But Noah was beyond all of that. The heavy poles that had crashed down upon her had crushed her legs and likely broken her back. She could have just fled when the fire broke out. She had come back to save me, though, and it had cost her everything. I brush at my eyes now, remembering. Though I'd had many brothers, she was so much closer, the sister I never had. I'd been ready to give up my freedom for her. Of course, that was out of the question with her injuries. Looking down at her piteous face and helpless broken body, I could not bear to leave her. I was Theo's only hope for survival, though. So I waited until Noah's eyes had closed for the last time, and then I set out across the barren field, Theo tucked firmly against me.
I stood straighter, truly on my own for the first time. Providence seemed to smile on Theo and me during our escape, as if saying we had already suffered enough. We'd made it to Lisbon mostly by train, then on foot into the city itself. There, the visa my brother had arranged was waiting at the consulate. Though the city was teeming with refugees desperate to flee, the money Eric had deposited was enough to buy us a place on board a steamer. Little breaks of luck, when before there had been so few. Perhaps it was more than I deserved. A few weeks after our ship reached New York, we received word that the Allies had landed and were headed toward Paris. The end of the war, though not here yet, was in sight. I was flooded with doubt. Maybe leaving Europe had been a mistake. We might have been safe. But there was no going back. I never flew again after the night of the fire. We found a life outside Tampa, where my brother Jules ran a carnival. I worked hard, selling tickets and concessions. Returning to the trapeze was more than Jules or I could have borne. At first, I feared life without performing would prove stifling and strange, as it had with Eric. But on my own, I was free. Only now I have come back. I clear the memories from my mind and gaze up at the circus exhibit, celebrating the acts and spectacles of that bygone era. Of course, the exhibit makes no mention of the circus's greatest feat, saving lives. There is a lone photo of Peter, resplendent in his clown costume. Behind the white makeup are the dark, sad eyes that only I knew. A note beneath his picture reads, "Killed in Auschwitz in 1945. That is not quite the truth. Peter, I discovered from the Yad Vashem archives decades earlier, had been sentenced by a Nazi tribunal at Auschwitz to die before a firing squad. The morning the guards had come for him, they had discovered that he had hung himself in his cell. I press myself against thick glass that covers the photo, cursing it for separating the image from my skin. And what of Eric? For some time I had not been able to learn his fate. I wondered if he had died in combat or perhaps escaped to South America like that Nazi butcher Josef Mengele and the other bastards who were never brought to justice. Then, about 3 years after the war ended, I received a letter from a law firm in Bonn that found me through the bank account in Lisbon, informing me that Eric had left me a small inheritance. It was only then that I learned he had been killed when the apartment building on Rochstrasse had been hit by a mortar shell. The building had been bombed on April 7, 1944, just days after he forwarded Jules's letter on to me. The air raid had come in the pre-dawn hours when everyone who lived there was still asleep. I would have been in bed too, and surely killed, had Eric not cast me out. I donated the money he left me to the Joint Distribution Committee. I never married again. I had healed once after Eric, but losing Peter was simply too much. 2 heartbreaks, such as the ones I had known, were enough for any lifetime. Noah's face appears in my mind. There is no photo of her in the exhibit, other than a piece of her face visible behind one of the acrobats in a photo of the full circus taking its final bow. She had performed so briefly, an unnamed footnote in the centuries of circus history. But I see her, young and beautiful on the trapeze, experiencing the wonder of flying for the first time. She had known heartbreak too, in a lifetime a fraction as long as mine.
I had always wondered about Luke. Why hadn't he shown up to meet Noah that last night? Though I had disliked him, he seemed to genuinely care for her. What had stopped him from coming for her? It is this question that in large part brought me here. That, and an idea of where I might find the answer, once I had realized the railcar pictured in the Times was one and the same. I stare at the carriage once more, eyes focused on the belly box below the rear of the car. Noah and Luke had left messages for one another there, thinking that no one else knew. I had seen them, though, exchanging confidences there like a childhood game of post office. Fools. If someone else had found out, they would have jeopardized us all. But I waited, let her have her fun, watching carefully to make sure no one else had seen. When I read the article in the paper about the circus exhibit, glimpsed the train car that was so improbably ours, I thought it was possible that the boy had left a message for Noah there, explaining. Only now, I found the belly box empty. I lean against the side of the train car, pressing my head flat against the worn wood. Like holding up a shell to hear the sea, voices echo that are no longer there. Then I take a few steps farther along the exhibit. There is an oil painting I have never seen before of a young woman on a trapeze. I gasp. The pale, slim figure is undoubtedly Noah. The sequined costume, one of my own that I had given her. Where had it come from? If someone had painted her portrait while she was at the circus, surely I would have known. I move closer and squint at the small plaque beneath the painting. Oil painting found in the possession of an unidentified young man who was killed when the Germans bombed a resistance stronghold near Strasbourg in May 1944. His connection to the circus and the subject of his painting are unknown. I freeze, my blood running cold. Noah had told me once that Luke wanted to be a painter. I had not known he was so talented. The image had been rendered with great skill, the artist having the clearest of affection for its subject. Taking in Luke's work, I am certain now that he would not have abandoned Noah. She had told me, too, that he planned to join the Maquis, and that he had gone to a resistance location not far from the fairgrounds. I hear then the bombs that rained down the night of our last performance, and know then why he had not come for her. Noah and Luke had died the same night, just miles apart, neither knowing. Tears fill my eyes and run over. I stare at the painting of Noah, which has been encased in glass to protect it from age and wear. He didn't leave you after all, I whisper. In the reflection of the glass behind me, something moves. A woman stands there behind me, with hair a dome of white. Noah, I think, even as I know it is impossible. I spin toward the image, fantasizing that she is here, and I can ask forgiveness for all I have done. Mom? I turn. Petra, my beautiful girl. There she stands, the child whom I was supposed to have lost all those years ago. I raise my hand to my stomach, feeling as I have so many times over the years the blow that almost took her from me. My miracle. Now, how did I know that I would find you here? There is no anger in her voice, just a smile about those full lips and the dark eyes that I will always see as if behind a sheet of white grease paint, performing. At first, my losing the pregnancy had not been a lie. There had been a sharp pain and bleeding that terrible night when the guard struck me. I had assumed after the blow that I had lost the child. But a few days later, as I stood atop the trapeze, considering whether to jump, I felt that familiar nausea return. I recognized instantly what it was. My child. Defiant, insisting upon life. I had not told Noah. She would never have taken the pass if she knew I was still pregnant. It was not that I did not want freedom or to live for my child. I did, so much so I could taste it. But Noah was younger, not as strong. She needed to go, and to take Theo with her. Without the circus, Noah would have nothing. I could manage, get by, find somewhere else to perform and survive. But she could barely take care of herself and Theo with all of our help. She would not make it on her own, so I had lied. My plan was a good one, and it might have worked if not for Luke and the fire. If it had been given a chance. How had the fire started, though? Across the years, I wondered if it had been set deliberately by a disgruntled circus worker, or even Emmett, wanting to be free of it all. Or perhaps a stray piece of shrapnel from one of the bombs. To this day, I do not know. In the end, it hadn't mattered. The fire, not the war, had taken Noah, just as arbitrarily as Herr Neuhoff had been felled by his heart. I had no choice but to take the pass and save Theo. And my daughter. Petra has her father's features, but she is petite, like me. A 4'11" surgeon for Doctors Without Borders, and a force to be reckoned with. I reach over the roped stanchion and brush her bangs from her eyes instinctively, as though she is 6. Only her hair is almost completely white. How odd it is to see your own child age. Petra, shielded on the inside and born in America, knew nothing of the hardships we had lived. Almost nothing. My daughter had been born blind in one eye, the sole injury the Guards Club had inflicted the night Peter was taken. As Petra steps forward to embrace me, someone taller appears behind her. "Mom, come out of there." I obey and reach up to hug Theo, who stands a full head above his sister, his own hair gray and wiry. Though they are not blood siblings, their features look remarkably the same. "You also came?" I ask chidingly. "Don't you have patients to care for?" "We're kind of a package deal," he replies, putting an arm around his sister's shoulders. It is true, the two couldn't be closer. They had both become doctors. Petra, who had not escaped the travel gene, circled the world in her practice. And Theo, ever content to stay, was a surgeon at a hospital in the same town where I had raised them, with his wife and my 3 beautiful granddaughters, themselves now grown. My 2 children, cut from different cloth, yet so very alike in shape. And medicine, a kind of family business to them, as much as the circus had been to my brothers and me. I push the belly box shut with my backside so Petra and Theo will not see, and let her lead me from the exhibit back to the other side of the ropes. "How did you get here so quickly?" I ask Theo. "I only left New York 2 days ago." "It was dumb luck that I was at a conference in Brussels when I got the call from the nursing home," he replies. I phoned Petra, and she flew in from Belgrade. Petra spent most of her time in Eastern Europe helping refugees. She had been drawn, it seems, back to this part of the world from which we had worked so hard to escape. I look at my children adoringly. In their faces, I can see the past as surely as Drina once read the future. Peter is so readily visible in our daughter. Most days it is like having him walk with me. Theo was not born to Noah, but somehow he absorbed so much of her looks, as if by osmosis, her expressions, and even her manner of speech. She had loved him so in the few short months she cared for him, and he could not have been more hers if she had given birth to him. Then there is that other face always in my mind, though I never met him, never had a photograph. Noah's child, taken from her at birth. I see him next to Theo, wonder so often what he would have been like as a man. "Mom," Theo's voice cuts into my thoughts. "You just took off from the home. We were so worried." "I had to see the exhibit," I offer weakly. Theo steps back, noticing the portrait of Noah. "That's her, isn't it?" he asks, a catch in his voice. He and Petra both know about Noah. I told my children when they were old enough the truth about Noah, and the way she had saved Theo. But the details of how she had come to be with the circus and the other sibling who might be out there still, well, some things are better left unsaid. I nod. "She was beautiful." "Beautiful," I repeat. "In more ways than you will ever know, I think. It was painted by a young man she met while she was with the circus. She only knew him a short while, but they loved each other very much. I never knew what became of him until now." We stare at the picture for several seconds without speaking. "Are you ready to go now?" Petra asks gently. "No," I reply firmly. "I'm not ready to leave." "Mom," Theo says patiently, as though speaking with a child. "I know the circus was a huge part of your life, but it's all gone now, and it's time to go home." I clear my throat. "First," I say, "there's something I must tell you." Petra's brow wrinkles in that way, so reminiscent of her father. "I don't understand." "Come." I gesture to a bench alongside the exhibit. I sit and take their hands, pulling a child down on each side of me. "There's more to the story than either you or your brother know. Before she found Theo, Noah had a baby." "Really?" Petra's voice is only mildly surprised. Such things are commonplace these days, hardly the scandal they were when we were young. "Yes," I reply. "It is the missing chapter of the story, the one that has never been told. I am the only one who knows it, and I will not be here much longer. I need to tell them now, so the truth is not lost forever." She was an unwed mother, and the father was a German soldier, so the Reich took her baby from her. She never knew what became of the child. Then she found you, Theo, and it was like a second chance. She loved you like her own. I add quickly, patting his hand. But she never forgot her firstborn. I'm sorry I never told you before. The secret, it wasn't mine to tell." "Why are you telling us now?" Petra asks. "Because I will not be here forever.
Someone needs to know the story and carry it forward. I look up at the painting of Noah once more. I'm ready now. Petra stands and reaches her hand toward me. Then, let's go. I take her hand and our fingers intertwine. Theo stands on my other side. I lean toward my beautiful boy, and he bows his head until our foreheads touch. Going together once more, I say. I let them lead me slowly from the museum, feeling the unseen hands that guide us.
We hope you have enjoyed this unabridged production of The Orphan's Tale by Pam Jenoff. This program was produced by Dion Audio Services. Executive producer, Suzanne Mitchell. Text copyright 2017 by Pam Jenoff. Production copyright 2017 by Harlequin Enterprises Limited. Used under license with Harlequin Books, S.A. All rights reserved. Thank you for listening.